know this game. If you haven't played it, then you've heard a lot about it. For episode 18 of Turn-Based Memories, we're taking a look at The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. My name is Mel, and this is a show where my co-host Zoltan and I take turns assigning each other games we haven't played before, and the goal is to compare a fresh experience with an old classic to the experience of the game back in its day. I played Ocarina of Time as a middle school kid very near its release. Zoltan just finished it for the first time a few days ago. We start by way of a brief introduction to the game. Ocarina of Time is a Nintendo 64 title that released in 1998 and has seen re-release on several platforms, including a remaster on the 3DS. It's a standout departure from prior entries in the series, taking things into a fully 3D realm, shifting the perspective from top-down to third-person, and creating an ingenious targeting system that makes interacting with the 3D world almost as easy as it was in the 2D predecessors, and it paved the way for future 3D games that would use similar targeting systems. My personal relationship with the game is a little strange. My older brother got it for Christmas the year it released, and for that occasion moved the N64 game console down from his room upstairs into our TV room downstairs. Of course, he and I played it on that day, and the introduction cutscene still triggers a morning sense memory, specifically the smell of Scotch tape used to put together the wrapping paper. The game felt magical, but for me it was also impenetrable. I actually bounced off of it when I played it first. I bounced off a few times, and my older brother apparently lost all interest. It wouldn't be until a year or two later that I, with the help of an official strategy guide, would manage to slowly work my way through the game. Not my older brother, who up until that point I usually watched beat games like this, but me, as he watched when I beat the final boss. Everything was exciting. It was definitely a time in my life where games were a form of magic, and what they could and couldn't do were far out from my understanding. The 7-year time skip partway through the game and getting to play as an adult was a highlight moment after spending what felt like weeks on end playing just as young Link, and I knew adult Link was in the game because he was on the cover of the strategy guide. Toward the end, and particularly by the time I had gotten to the Fire Temple, the game picked up for me in a big way. I was starting to really get into the rhythm of what the game was all about. I was tearing through each dungeon and wound up at the conclusion a little sooner than I expected. Along the way, I played the game with a friend as we both sought to 100% our own copies of the game. We may have been using guides, but trust me, we needed it. We were bad at games as kids. At one point, my friend's mother began helping us by looking things up on a very different internet. Did I have a hard time with the Water Temple? Yes, I did. Did I 100% the game in the end? Yes, I did. The story felt like I was tapping into a piece of gaming history, and that I could only finally get a foothold into. I knew about Zelda too. I watched my older brother play that game several times. I knew who Ganon was, but who was this Ganondorf person? What was that all about? The big reveal at the end where he transforms into Ganon by name felt like everything was falling into place. All along, this was an origin story. This is how Ganon was made. Somehow that reveal was more important to me than learning that Sheik was Zelda. I don't know why. The music of Ocarina of Time did stand out to me, but no piece of it more so than the introduction sequence that plays on the attract screen. The first few notes on the harp are probably some of the most nostalgic sounds in all of gaming for me. Zoltan and I will get into it in our discussion about the music, but I suspect Zoltan will love most of what he hears here. It's all very short, but it's also very memorable by design. The game drills it into your head each piece of music you learn by forcing you to replay them on your ocarina, but even without that, they'd be plenty memorable due to the way they were written. I don't suspect Zoltan is going to go for the darker elements of the game if you've listened to the show up until now. That should be a safe bet to make. But overall, is this game going to blow his mind? Is it going to be the gaming revolution that everyone sort of thought it was back in the day? I don't think so. By now, everyone knows what a Zelda game is, especially what 3D Zelda games are. And by now, most of us have played games very much like these games, even if we haven't played a 3D Zelda before. But much like my time with Chrono Trigger, I think that there is a possibility that some of the original magic could seep in. Is that going to be the case? Well, we're about to find out in our discussion section where I ask Zoltan a couple questions about his time with the game, and then he gives me a couple answers and adds whatever he needs to add. Let's get right to it. Okay, and now we hit the discussion portion of the episode. This is episode 18 of Turn-Based Memories. We were just saying before that we weren't sure if this was episode 18. I'm pretty sure it's episode 18.
I hope you're right.
I hope I'm right, too. There's no way to know. There's no way to know. We can't find out. So, yes, this is where I'm going to talk to my lovely co-host, Zoltan. How you doing?
Doing well. I'm excited to talk about this game, yo.
Yeah, I got a couple questions here for you, but I hope that the discussions here will kind of lend itself well to conversation. So I don't have a lot of questions, actually.
Okay.
But I think the first one I want to kind of get off onto the record, so to speak, is what is your experience exactly with the Zelda series, the 2D and the 3D games? I know you didn't have any prior experience with this game.
Right. I played a little bit of Zelda 1 back in the day. Don't know if I owned it, and I know I never finished it, so I probably didn't own it. Yeah. Zelda 2 is probably the first RPG I ever beat in my whole life. Because I played that before I played Dragon Warrior. In fact, I didn't play Dragon Warrior until kind of a few years ago. So, and then I also never owned freaking, what's the third one called? A Link to the Past. I never owned it, but I know that I beat it once.
Oh,
because I borrowed it or something.
Sure.
So, yeah, but I didn't have strong feelings about it. And then after that, the only other Zelda game I've played is Wind Waker.
Right, and you finished it.
And I finished that, and I was old enough to remember what it was like and everything. Whereas, like, when I played freaking Link to the Past, I had no idea if this was awesome or not. Just I played it.
I agree. Yeah, I remember being at that age where it's just like, I'm doing a thing. I'm not thinking very hard about it.
Yep.
You know, I was definitely coming right out of that phase in my gaming career, as I tend to say. With this game, with Ocarina of Time, that was right in that sweet spot where I was kind of circling back to games like Mario RPG and other games that I started to like find my taste in games and not just play whatever my brother asked for Christmas. You know.
I see.
So, okay, no direct experience with the 3D games other than Wind Waker and none with this game. How much do you think you knew about Ocarina of Time, since when we were talking about Final Fantasy VII, we did a whole episode on the remake. I expressed that I knew, and we did the original as well. I expressed that I knew a lot about Final Fantasy VII. Because it's everywhere. So what about this Ocarina of Time?
I didn't know that much at all. I knew that it kind of looks like ass nowadays, comparatively
Mm,
speaking,
okay.
to what it back then. And I knew that it was. I did know that like it's one of the ones that everybody raves the hardest about. I knew that.
Right.
I knew they had an ocarina. I
Okay.
it's in the title.
I knew there was time involved.
Yeah, I knew that the water temple was infamous. I knew that.
Okay. 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 That's good to
Yeah.
know.
Um, but that's about all I knew. Oh, and I knew that you grew up. I knew that, but I didn't know that you
Sure.
grew up because of time travel. I thought just time passed
Time
and then it
passed.
continued. I didn't know
Got it.
you would go back and forth actually, so that was a bit of a
Okay.
surprise.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah. But I
Um.
was surprised about what I learned about the game, and
Sure.
I came to realize like, oh, this is why everybody thinks this game is amazing. I kind of figured it out what the deal was.
Well, I guess let's get into it. What do you think that would have been for people?
Well, remember when Wind Waker came out and right before it came out, when everybody saw the art, they were getting all upset because it looked too cartoony.
Sure.
Yeah, so I didn't really know about that back then, like why people would be upset or whatever. Now I know because this is a really realistic portrayal of Zelda, in my opinion.
Hmm.
I mean, the graphics aren't the best, but like you go into that town. What is the Hyrule town called? Is it just called Hyrule? What's the
Hyrule
town
Castle
called?
Town. It's
Castle
called the
Town.
Castle
Yeah,
Town. Yeah.
you go to Hyrule Castle Town, and it doesn't look like they changed it in the 3D remake of the game, 3DS remake of the
Hmm.
game.
Hmm.
But in this original N64 version that I played, it just looks like they made a super realistic
Yeah.
building with as best as they could with the graphics they had at the time, and freaking sort of, he doesn't look as cartoony as the Link in Wind Waker, but still looks way more cartoony
It's
than a real human.
kind of a hard edge anime look to it, a little bit.
Yeah,
Something along those
yeah.
lines. They used pre-rendered backgrounds for the castle town and a certain right outside the Temple of Time. That's a big
Yeah.
pre-rendered like JPEG that you're running
Yeah.
around on, and it looks very realistic.
Right?
It's
It looks like somebody
yeah,
took a picture and just put
hmm
it into N64 graphics,
kind of
right?
does a little bit.
Yeah.
So definitely this game, and not just versus Wind Waker, but when compared to the art style in like the manuals for A Link to the Past and other previous 2D Zelda
Oh,
games,
yeah, yeah.
he tended to have a more rounded, Miyazaki-ish vibe, more cartoony for sure.
Yeah, cartoony for sure.
And
I can
this
remember what those
was,
were like.
and when you looked at all the promo art for Link and the game in general for this game, which I saw a lot of because I had the official strategy guide that had a ton of big full-size, page-sized, like official art for all the characters in it. It was very realistically drawn. So this game being a lot of people's first Zelda game
Yeah.
in earnest, like it was mine, would have been their like the table setting for them. Being, oh well, this is what this series is. It's a realistic sort of fantasy series, and it's an outlier.
Is it? I guess it's an outlier. Yeah. I mean, in terms of graphics, definitely, I would say it's an outlier, especially when you consider that they changed how the buildings look in the 3DS version. They look way more colorful and
Yeah,
a little bit more like how Link looks in the game, as opposed to just like kind of cartoony Link walking into real life looking buildings. But anyway, so yeah, I figured out what it is that is making people lose their mind over this game, and I think that's one of the aspects is how it's got this dark atmosphere, this realistic atmosphere, partially part of the graphics, and they added lots more story than in the previous 3 Zelda games. They had some cutscenes, they had a lot more drama, especially with freaking the Princess Zelda, and you meet all these women, and then you can't fall in love with any of them because they all become sages.
yeah, yeah.
and, And so I don't know. I liked it. I like that aspect of it a lot, and I can see the appeal.
Got it. So let's see here. How much of the game on your playthrough? I'm assuming you only played through once, right?
Yeah, I didn't go for it. This Master Quest. Sorry.
Okay. No, that's fine. But you did play the version that has the Master Quest available to it, right?
Well, does the original version have it? I played
No.
the original.
The
What? It
original,
doesn't have it?
the Master Quest, quote unquote, is part of a re-release. So
Oh,
that came years and years after Ocarina of Time originally came out on the N64.
yeah.
But
Okay.
you played the original version still. The version you played is still the vanilla
Vanilla
unaltered.
N64 version.
Yeah.
Yes.
There are actually minor tweaks, graphical tweaks here and there. I don't know if you've ever heard about them. There's 2 or 3 quote unquote major changes they made to the game since the
You're
initial
talking about.
release.
Okay. Well, graphically, they look totally different. I want to say, yeah,
But
on
they're
the
like
3DS version.
edits, they're not updates. They removed and changed certain things.
Oh, okay.
One of them being Ganondorf's blood. They changed it green. Used to be
Okay.
red.
Yeah.
The other one, 2 other things were the blocks used to have a crescent moon shape on them.
They did. They do.
They do in the version that you're playing? Alright, so you're playing an older version then. They changed it to where they no
They,
longer have that crescent moon and they changed it to some other generic shape because they wanted to remove any similarities to Islam that were
oh, okay.
associated with the crescent moon shape. They also changed, and you must have played the version that sort of Ganondorf had green blood or no?
I don't remember, but I think it was red. I think I would have noticed if it was green.
Okay. So you may have played an older version, somehow had an older build. I have that version. But if you have the Master Quest, then I don't know when the Master Quest exactly came out, but it must have been before they made some of these modifications.
So my
Uh,
question is,
Good.
they made this updated version also for copies of the N64 version?
No. So the
Okay.
Master Quest version initially came out as a pre-order bonus for Wind Waker. There was a
Okay.
bonus disc that you technically weren't supposed to be able to buy separately. Like it said on the box, not for resale. But I bought it
Okay.
for sure. I definitely bought it. Where it had Ocarina of Time, I believe Majora's Mask, and the Master Quest version of Ocarina of Time. Graphically, all looked exactly like the N64 version, but they had these, I don't know, edits in them where they removed the symbol on the block, they changed the music in the Fire Temple to the chanting was apparently lifted vaguely from an Islamic prayer. And they
Okay.
got skittish, I guess, so they removed it. And they changed it to some other vague chanting that no one could associate with anything.
So it
But
looks like I got the most faithful to the original
I guess so.
version, I guess.
Yeah, the red blood they removed on later N64 versions. So I'm a little surprised. You may have had the green blood and you don't remember.
Yeah,
Because
it's possible.
there are N64 copies of the game that have the green blood. Like that was like the first one
Huh.
they were like, oh no, too violent or something. Because he
Yeah.
coughs up red blood. It's only in one scene.
Yeah.
And there's a couple other instances where there's blood on walls here and there that they reduced the size of the graphic or removed it very slightly, but the Ganondorf scene is the biggest one. But
Yeah.
anyway, I was getting at you only played through it once. We kind of have an idea of what version you did play, but how much of the game did you get through? Because there are a bunch of little optional side quests.
Yeah, I didn't get all the optional things. I only had just over what I assume is half of the heart
Pieces.
containers.
Yeah, there are a lot.
Yeah, because it extended to a second row of hearts. So I assume that second row extends to the end of the first row, and that's the end of the hearts, I guess. So,
I believe so.
Yeah.
Did you get the fairy power up that gives you the white outline around the hearts?
No. What does the white outline around the hearts do for you?
That essentially, I don't know if it's straight up
half damage.
Kind of. It almost either gives you an extra 25% to your max. So whatever your max is, add 25%. because your heart has to remove that white outline, then it starts removing parts of the heart.
Oh, that's interesting.
So
Yeah, I didn't
it's a
get
good
that.
deal. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess you could say I didn't get I definitely didn't get all the gameplay there is to get out of it.
There's a
I thought,
lot. I had to use a
right?
guide. Like, it's definitely one of those games where you're either going to spend a summer as a kid playing the game
Yeah,
and getting it all,
just wandering
or
around
right,
everywhere. I know I
or you're
realized
going to
that
use a
very
guide.
quickly.
Right.
But yeah, so I only flipped open a guide a few times, but yeah, I didn't flip open a guide to like find all the things because I didn't worry. But it's Zelda. It's not going to be that hard, is what I was telling myself. And in the end, I guess it wasn't too bad, but it still got pretty hard at sometimes. But so yeah, I didn't get that. I didn't get the Goron sword. I found out about that.
So you know about the big Goron sword. Okay.
Yeah, that looks pretty awesome. Wish I had that.
Big two-handed sword that you can't use your shield with. That's how cool it is.
Nice. Yeah. I didn't get the fire arrows until after I didn't need them anymore.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I got the fire arrows by accident right off the bat, and then I remember thinking, how the hell was I supposed to know to do that?
There's a clue. So
very vague clue. Go ahead.
Shall we go into the freaking what did you want to say about how much I got through it? I missed a lot of stuff.
I was just trying to get a feel for, so I think I understand. So the big Goron sword is the biggest side quest. Do you know how that side quest works?
No, nothing about it.
It's like a big fucking trade a thing for a thing over and over and over side quest. You go to this guy. Yeah, you go to this guy who says, I need this. But no, before I give you this, I need that. So you go to that guy, and then you go to this guy, and it's a big cascading trade-off. And then the last one is the big Goron himself, who forges the sword. Is like, oh, you gave me the thing that lets me forge the sword, but my eyes are all dry. I need eye drops from the other side of the goddamn map in Lake Hylia.
Yeah.
And they're on a timer. They expire. You have to run by foot or on horse across the map in, I forget how much time, get to Mount, I was going to say Mount Doom.
Right.
And then Death Mountain, yes. And then climb up, because you can't warp, or otherwise it cuts your time off completely. So you have to do it all by foot.
That's crazy.
Did you get the horse? Did you get Epona?
Nope.
Okay.
I didn't know how to get it.
I played the game the first time without knowing how to get it either. So, but did you go to the Lon Lon Ranch?
Yeah,
as
I
an
went
adult?
to Lon Lon Ranch as and as adult. So first I went there as a kid.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, oh, I'm gonna get the horse.
Right.
Because they show him freaking riding it in the intro.
Yeah.
And I heard about it. So like, yeah, I'm gonna get the horse. This is gonna be awesome. And I go there and I'm talking to the girl, and she's like, oh yeah, the horse is a little bit spooked by you, Link. And I'm like, okay, I know exactly what I gotta do. This music that's playing in the background is the song I have to play. So I whip out my ocarina, and she's like, oh, are you going to play a song? And I'm like, I figured it out. And I'm trying to play the song just by listening to the background music, and like nothing's happening. And like, what the hell is going on? So I don't know. Became an adult, went back there. She never mentioned it. Like, I never got the horse. I don't know.
I believe you're supposed to play Zelda's Lullaby. Either that or Saria's song. One of the two. And then she says, oh, that's a really cool song. Let me teach you a song. And then she teaches you. Yeah, you never have to listen by ear. Someone always tells you exactly what to play.
So let's just make this the ocarina section, because I had multiple times where something weird happened with something like this happened with the ocarina.
Oh boy.
So that's one of them, right?
That's interesting, because every time all of the ocarina moments in my mind are so like, oh yeah, you do this, and I've lost memory of how I learned that, because I didn't follow the guy I had like 100% of the time. I dipped into it a lot, especially toward the end when I wanted to finish like everything. So yeah, go ahead. You were saying that you were having a whole bunch of strange encounters.
Ocarina. Yeah, so eventually I finally learned. that every time you see a Triforce on the ground, you're supposed to play Zelda's Lullaby.
Okay.
I figured that out like sometime during the water tower.
Sure.
And then there's like a certain sign. There's a certain sign on the ground, or maybe it wasn't on the ground. When you see that, you're supposed to play the Song of Time or something. And I figured that out. I looked at a guide when I was stuck in the water tower temple, and it said a lot of players missed that tile on the ground after you get the long shot. And I'm like, what tile on the ground? And I went back there, and you're supposed to play the Song of Time there. Okay, fine. How about this? I freaking went to the dude. This is amazing. I went to the dude in the windmill in Kakariko Village. You know what I'm talking about?
The guy on the windmill. You're
The
talking
guy who's
the guy
in the windmill building who's like
Oh
playing
yeah,
an
with the
accordion or
organ
something.
grinder. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's like going round and round and round.
Yep.
I love playing music that goes round and round. And I'm like, okay. And the music is let me remember the song. It's it's that one, right?
Uh-huh.
So of course, until now, all the songs have been just the first three notes repeated twice. So of course I gotta play and it's gonna do the song. I did that over and over and over again while locked onto the guy, while not locked onto the guy, talking to him before, talking to him after. No freaking change. And I found out later it's actually a crazy time travel quest that you're really supposed to do. In my mind, was goddamn blown because what you're supposed to do when you do that, you're supposed to go to him as an adult.
Yep.
And it's one of those closed time loop things where you were always destined to time travel in the first place thing.
Yeah.
I don't know how those work exactly, but you go to him as an adult and he'll say, man, this kid, he kept playing this freaking Song of Storms in front of me all the freaking time. And I was like, what? What if I didn't do that? And then and this is the song. And then he played the song that I played. And like, oh man, they should have like made it like what I just said. If you didn't actually play it to him while you were a kid, he wouldn't do that. That would be amazing.
That would have been crazy. That is also, like you were saying, the big like mind fuck moment in that like low key a really just like mind blow moment. It's like I taught myself a thing that I learned in the future. What?
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, exactly. So yeah, and then I never got Epona's song, and then there was another one. There was that freaking one more was the Scarecrow thing at Lake Hylia.
Oh yeah, the Scarecrow.
Yeah, he remembers the song you play, right?
Yeah.
Play me a song, he says. I'm like, okay. And so I played Zelda's Lullaby. I thought I had to play for him, I guess. I don't know why. So I played and then I wanted to end the song right there. And I guess the right button to push would have been the B button, but I pushed the A button, and that played another note. So it's and then there's a pause, and it goes at the very end. And then now every time we talk about it, it's like, oh man, I heard this song. And did you know this, Mel? Did you know that after you beat the game and you sit on the end after the credits screen, if you just leave it for like, I don't know how many minutes, 3, 4, 5 minutes, it starts playing Zelda's Lullaby.
Oh, is
what I wanted to say, but it wasn't Zelda's Lullaby. It was
the Scarecrow song
I played for the freaking Scarecrow, and at the end I hear the "dut." I'm like, oh my god, they got it.
Yeah, do you know what the actual purpose for teaching him that song is?
No.
It's probably one of the worst communicated little things. So there are, every once in a while when you're running around, especially in dungeons, the Navi the fairy will turn green and fly around something. But you can't target it.
Yeah, you can't target it.
That is somehow supposed to be your cue, your clue, to play the Scarecrow song. And the Scarecrow shows up there, and you can hook shot to him, and he usually lets you get to some secret chest or something. But none of those things are like very important. They never freaking tell you that. I guess you're supposed to intuit oh, you could hookshot a scarecrow because he's made of the stuff that you can hookshot to, like wooden boxes and other soft, like wooden things that you hookshot to them. But like, what the? I don't know. That's one of the ones you can go the whole game and not bother with that guy.
That's what ended up happening. But
right.
that's my story of all the Ocarina songs that I couldn't figure out.
Did
when
you
to
play
them.
the Ocarina songs for the frogs?
I don't think I met any frogs.
There's a little in the river that leads up to the Zora domain. Somewhere, because the river forks a whole bunch, but somewhere in the shallow river, there's a log.
It says there's some frogs over here, is what it said, although I didn't see them. It just said it.
If you stand on the stump that's exposed above the water, I think they automatically like all pop up like boop, 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 and then you can play whatever songs you learn. They're like, oh, it's a great song. Here, let me give you a rupee. And then there's exactly as many frogs as there are songs you can learn. You can play all the songs you learn at some point, and they give you a heart piece.
Oh, eventually, if you play all of them, you get the heart piece?
If you remember to go back to them throughout the game and play all the songs you know, you can get the heart piece there.
That's interesting.
So there's a lot of optional little side questy things in this game that are pretty dubious.
I didn't sell ghosts to that one guy. Like
the pose.
I didn't do that.
That's a hard one.
I didn't give, except for one person. I found the person who wants the fox mask and nobody else who wants masks.
Oh, the mask one is also really hard, but that's also a big one too. You get the Mask of Truth at the end, and that lets you talk more directly to those stones that tell you the time when you hit them.
Oh yeah, and then they give you something eventually.
I don't know if they give you anything. I think they say like world lore about the place they're in. I think is what it is. Okay. I've only ever done it once or twice because it's a really long, pain in the ass side quest to do.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool idea though that you're gonna get lore from those things eventually.
Yeah,
I kind of wish there was some. Well, I mean, I don't know. I guess I should have tried to do that. I was gonna say I wish there was some hint that that's what you're gonna get, but I guess whatever. I should have at least thought to even try to do the side quest first because I didn't even think I'm gonna find all the people who want masks. Didn't even think about that.
Yeah, I definitely didn't 100% the game on my first playthrough, even with a guide, because I just wasn't using the guide the whole time. So yeah, I remember I got stuck on the skull mask, which I think you're supposed to give to the kid who runs around in the graveyard in Kakariko Village, who likes to hang out with Dampy, the grave keeper guy.
Yeah.
It's a weird guy.
That makes sense to some degree, yeah.
Yeah, so, but it's him or it might actually be someone else. But anyway, doesn't matter. Okay, so now we have a little idea on the side quests in this game are actually kind of hard to do. Like, so that wasn't me being a kid,
no,
just not being able to figure it out.
The exploration in this game is really hardcore. And the some of the puzzles are too, and those two things combined make this a surprisingly. I did not think this game was going to be so hard. I would say this game. Well, first let's just keep it to exploration. Yeah, I didn't think they were gonna leave me to my own devices to the degree that they did to find that many things, which is hilarious when you consider how freaking famous Navi is for telling you annoying things all the time.
Good point.
Because she tells you all the things that you don't need to know, and she doesn't give you hints about things that you right? Like, how many times was I in Gerudo Valley and she says just, hey, and I'm like, what? You got to go to the Gerudo Valley. I'm here, yo. I'm trying to find the guys, okay? Just let me look around. And so, and you walk up to the freaking door that's got bars covering it, and she's like, hey, there's bars covering the door. I know, it's there. I can see it. But she doesn't, tell me. The time that I wanted to talk to her was, right after I finished a temple or something. And it's like, okay, now where do I go? And I want to push the freaking Navi button, but she's like, I have to, wait for her to say hey.
So you can actually talk to her whenever you want. There's a way.
What is the way? No way.
There is a way. You
What
can
is the way?
play
Uh,
you can play Saria's song to talk to Saria whenever you want. And then it prompts you, do you want to talk to her or just play the song? And you can say no. And then Navi's like, well, do you want to talk to me? And you can say yes or no.
oh, if you said okay, I didn't know.
It's
That's
super, another poorly communicated, if you actually
mechanic.
want a hint from Navi, you can do so whenever you like.
Yeah,
I remember doing that a couple times by accident.
yeah. So they leave a lot of, but annoying Navi useless hints aside, they leave a lot, like all of the exploration and finding things up to you. And I was pretty impressed by that, but that ends up not really working out well for me personally. I found out through playing this game and also reflecting upon Shin Megami Tensei 3 Nocturne, was it?
Yes.
Yeah. That I finished this game, so don't worry. But yeah, upon reflection, I realized, there's a certain kind of gameplay that I just don't like, and that is when I have to search for a thing. Like, if the puzzle is to search for a thing, what am I getting out here? I don't know what I'm getting at here. I don't want to have to wander around and search for all the heart pieces, and I didn't want to have to wander around and search for all the demons that I need to get to make progress either. I'm fine when I go into a room and the puzzle is everything
in the room.
Everything I need is in the room. Yeah. There's always, when you're playing Ocarina of Time, there's always the lingering fear that, well, can I actually even do this puzzle? Or like, now where am I supposed to go get a thing first? And it boggles my mind how I got to the end of the game without the fire arrows now, dude. How did I do it? Because like there's this freaking web in the hole in the ceiling, and you have to burn the web by shooting a fire arrow at it, and then like light comes through, and then you reflect the light onto the symbol on the wall. But dude, if you don't have fire arrows, it's crazy. You have to there's like in the room next to it, which is connected to it directly, but in the room next to it, there's a couple of torches, and it is not placed in a way that you can stand behind it and aim up.
Is that what you did?
That's what I did.
Oh my god!
So I got in the most unlikely position ever, and then I was aiming up at the spider web at the ceiling, and I'm like, so from what it looks like right now, I'm gonna shoot right to the side of this torch, and the arrow is not going to catch fire, and it's just going to be the arrow hitting the spider web. But I launched it, and I guess I hit, some hitbox that was in the air.
Oh,
boy. The hitbox extends beyond the flame itself, and I actually got past that, and I was like, there's no way that's the correct way. That was blowing my mind if that's what they really wanted me to do.
So how did you figure out to get the fire arrows?
Dude, I heard it in a freaking video later. And that's the thing, man. Like when I'm talking about with how hardcore the exploration is in this game, and that thing I just mentioned to you about the fire arrows, not only the thing where you don't have the correct tool, I searched all over the freaking world as soon as I got out of after I met Zelda, Princess Zelda. I was like, okay, there's all these places I can go, yo. And every time you go towards a place, the freaking owl dude comes.
Yeah.
And he tells you something about the area. But if one of the places you go is Gerudo Valley, and I found this out later, that he only tells you this if you approach Gerudo Valley from the north, like from Hyrule Castle, that particular place where you meet the owl dude, he'll be like, you can go south to Lake Hylia, or you could go west here to Gerudo Valley. It's up to you. Go wherever you want. He totally says that to you. And I'm like, great. I'm going to search all over the place and find stuff. And, I go to Lake Hylia, and I'm like looking at that tree with the 3 scratches on it. I'm like, what the hell does that mean? And I'm looking down at the gigantic plate, which I didn't realize I needed I needed to play that song at the time. But the main thing right there is you go up there, and there's a sign. There's a plate on the ground that says, shoot towards the sunrise.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. And so I aim at the sun when it comes up with my Deku Nut slingshot. Didn't do anything. Did not do anything. I wasted a lot of Deku Nuts there, yo. I found out later there's a song you can get to make the sun come up and down at will.
Yes.
So I thought, okay, they want me to make the sun come up myself. That's part of the thing. I did that. That didn't work either. Turns out you got to come back there when you're an adult and shoot arrows at the sun.
Yeah.
And then there's that house at Lake Hylia, and that you dive down into the water, and then you get out of the water and talk to the scientist guy in there, and he's like, "Dude, you just dived down 2 meters. You should be able to dive deeper than that." And I'm like, "Okay, I don't know how."
You jerk.
Right? So then I do the freaking Zora quest part of the game, and then during that part, you can dive way deeper. And I'm like, awesome. I'll go back to that guy. Went back there. He's like, "Oh yeah, you dived like 4 meters now, but you should still be able to dive deeper." I'm like, "The hell are you talking about?" So then you do the freaking water temple, and you get iron boots, which let you freaking be at the bottom of the ocean. Right? And I'm like, okay, I got this. And I put on the iron boots and sunk all the way down to the bottom. Took them back off, went all the way back up to the top, and like, he's like, "No, that doesn't count as a dive." So there's all these times, and then I went to Gerudo Valley, and the lady's like, "You don't have any business here. Get out of here." And I figured out you can use the chicken to float across things, and so I was like, "Okay, I got to use the chicken and jump over here and float across." I missed them, and and I ended up flying all the way through the waterfall and finding a heart piece behind the waterfall, which was awesome. But I went to all these places, and I was stuck for hours at the beginning of the game, yo. I eventually went to Death Mountain, found the Goron City, and I'm like, okay, this is the place I'm supposed to be.
Right.
I've seen a million rocks that look like I could bomb them, and this place has bomb flowers.
Yeah.
So I'm ready to pick up a bomb flower. Can't pick it up.
Nope.
Okay, well, I got to figure out how to pick these up.
Oh, God. That's right. This is kind of complicated.
Anyway, the thing that I had to do in the end was I was supposed to play the freaking song of Zelda's Lullaby outside of the dude's house. Because the guy said he's waiting for the messenger. And I'm like, great, I got to show him I'm the messenger. I have a note from Princess Zelda. I just have to give it to him, and he'll know that I'm the messenger.
Nope.
I didn't know that he was in that room, and I needed to play the song outside his room. So I ended up looking that up. And then finally I could continue with the game. But anyway, as I've made lots of great examples for now, the exploration in this game, pretty hardcore, yo.
Yeah, I didn't really think about it. When you don't have memory to rely on, because I know I could probably recite by closing my eyes what the steps you have to take to beat the game.
Yeah.
And not having that, it is kind of surprising to remember how obscure just even the main quest line is. They do try to throw you a bone, though, and this is the way I've always done it, with the fire arrows. You don't need to have the sun song to get them, or really... Yeah. So when you beat the water temple, rather, your adult Link, it puts you at the top on that island, and it puts you there at sunrise.
Oh, that's cool.
And it also faces you, because when she jumps off the top of the tree, she lands way out in the water by the little island where the fire arrows show up. So you're kind of supposed to go, oh, where'd you go? And run over there, and it's the sunrise, and you see the pedestal, and it says, shoot the sun at sunrise, and go, oh, okay, and then you get the fire arrows. But you can do it whenever you want, when you go into that grave headstone and get the sun song to make the sun come up whenever you want.
Yeah.
Which is also how you freeze those re-deads. Did you know about that? The zombie guys that grab onto you?
Yeah, I noticed you could freeze them.
Freeze them with the sun song. Yeah, I think some people didn't know that. Wasn't sure, because I don't think the game friggin' tells you that either.
No, I think it said, like, you can use this to purify unholy things or something.
Okay. Maybe it does.
And I took whatever they said as a hint.
Got it.
Or, oh, no, that wasn't it. I remember you have to play it when you learn it, of course. And then from that moment, when you walk back into the previous area, they're already frozen.
Oh, are they? I thought you had to play again in that area to freeze them
And
again.
I think that's why people don't know. It's like, what's up with these guys? And
Oh,
then
I get it.
I
Yeah,
think I made the connection that, oh, it must be because I played the sun song.
got
Because
it. Yeah,
usually zombies, they don't
because
do well with sunlight.
I've seen some people play through the game being like, these guys are so hard. I'm like, just use the fucking sun song. Now,
Okay, well,
go ahead.
dude, there's a massive, massive problem with the lock on, especially when you're fighting redeads. Like, the game is trying to tell you, dude, kill these guys without locking on. Because if you step like 2 feet, like 2 link feet away from them, you lose the lock on.
Uh-huh.
It's exceedingly short range, depending on the enemy. And that's like the worst offender right there. It's just you are not supposed to lock onto them. If you're not right up against them, you lose the lock on. Why is that? I hate that.
I don't think I ever noticed.
I did.
I mean, yeah, I guess you're not. They're gonna freeze you most of the time anyway. If you don't play the sun song
from the front. But I thought the whole point was you're just supposed to hit them from the back because that's how I always killed them.
Yeah, me too. Or you just gotta stun lock them and just like boom, 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 so they don't get a chance to, or bomb them, throw a bomb at them. That works too.
Yeah.
Did you get any of the 3 goddess powers? There's Din's fire.
Yeah, I got Din's fire.
Yeah.
Are there 3 of them? I got a wind song.
Nehru's love, and then Faror's wind.
Okay, I got Faror's wind. I didn't get the love one. What does the love one do?
That that I think creates some kind of a barrier. I never used those other 2. I don't even remember what the Nehru's love does. I think it creates a barrier and maybe it heals you. Faror's wind sets like a warp point.
Yes, yeah, it sets the warp point.
Which I guess is useful if you're really like going through the game the first time. I never use Faror's wind. Probably should.
Dude, if you want to access, because I think getting all of those is optional, right?
Yes.
Like even the fire one is optional, right?
Din's fire is probably the closest one to being necessary, and I was only bringing that up because that whole rigmarole you did with the fire, you could have just used Din's fire.
Oh, would it reach up to the ceiling?
Yeah, it covers like a massive area around you.
Yeah, I know. But the ceiling's pretty high. I don't know if it would
maybe it wouldn't have reached that particular room. Maybe not.
Yeah, I'm not sure. But
that's how you get into the Shadow Temple, right?
Right. There's all those torches. I can't imagine. I mean, I can imagine, actually. I can imagine lighting them all. No, it's impossible because there has to be one torch already lit and there are 0, right?
Right. I mean, you could light one and then get. Can you use Deku sticks as adult link?
No,
you can't.
Oh yeah, you can't even use them. Yeah, that's right.
So for some reason,
you have to have the fire for that part.
Yeah, you would have to. You have to.
Good thing I found that, man. Jesus.
Damn. Yeah. Okay. So one other piece of curiosity I have is: did you play the fishing minigame at all?
I played it, and guy. No, I don't like it. I mean, it seems kind of boring to me. I don't know. I instantly destroyed it, yo. I freaking talked to the guy, or at least I thought I talked to the guy, and he's like, "Good luck. The biggest fish anybody's ever caught here is 6 pounds." And I'm like, okay, so I guess I got to beat 6 pounds is to win the game, right? Freaking caught one fish, no good. Caught another fish, second fish I ever caught. It's like 10 pounds. Like, dude, I just blew the world record out of the water. That's amazing, right? Here's a rupee. So I guess I was supposed to actually catch an even larger one. And then
there's like a really, really big one. And I want to say, if my memory doesn't fail, that's how you get the golden scales, which is not the silver scales. You got the silver scales, right?
What did this? Was the silver scale the one that let me dive deeper?
Dive a little deeper. Golden lets you dive even deeper. That's the thing that guy in the laboratory wanted.
Me to get. Oh my god! What is he? Is he going to give me a heart?
Probably. Yeah, probably. Yeah. I think so. It's been forever since I did that one. But that fishing minigame, I ask only because I have distinct memories of playing games, picking this game up out of my collection, putting it in just to play the fishing. I liked the fishing for some reason. I thought it was really cool. And I'm sure I got the the big fish. There's a really, really big fish in the middle somewhere, and you kind of have to stand on the log in the middle of the lake, the little pond, and I think you also need a different lure too. I think.
No, I think you can't get the
Oh, you're right. Yeah, that's what
second
it
lure
is.
until you've already caught the biggest fish in the world.
Yeah,
So
there's
it doesn't
like
even matter.
a cheating
I don't
lure
think.
or something. You can also use
sinking lure.
sinking lure. You can also use the fishing rod to catch the guy's hat.
Oh, right off his head?
Off his head? Yeah, it's kind of funny. It's just a little joke. But
funny.
yeah, there's a real big fish. I remember spending a long, long time trying to get that big fish. So I was just curious if you spent any time, because they kind of acknowledged that people really like this minigame. They added it back into Twilight Princess and everyone was like, "Oh, the fishing is back."
In a bad way, right?
In a bad, I guess. Like, I don't remember spending any
it?
time
Did they like it then?
Twilight Princess?
I know. Did they like it in 64 and they just messed it up? Is that what happened?
I remember. Well, I liked it, but I do remember reading a lot about people like the fishing in this game's great.
Huh. Okay. I wonder how it compares to Breath of Fire has a 3 and 4 both have really nice fishing games in my opinion, and I really like them. I wonder if you'll like those.
Yeah, I'd be curious. I haven't gotten into any fishing games since then, but I just really remember for a short span of time being really enthralled by this little fishing minigame. I couldn't tell you why. So I was just curious if that translated at all, or if that was just a weird me thing.
Because I don't know what the freaking mechanic is. Like, how do you actually get it and like fail or whatever? Like,
yeah, I guess I couldn't say.
You gotta make sure the thing doesn't. You gotta make the lure come to you as though it is a swimming fish. I guess that's what.
Well, there's little jerking motions that you can do left and right, and there's also like an up and down. I always assumed that there was some rhythm or some way of doing it that would keep the fish on the hook. Like, you have to keep the tension up some way. They don't explain it if there is a deeper mechanic to it, and maybe I'm just reading all that into the experience. If it's just a random chance, I have no idea. But it's I remember finding it very fun back in the day.
I imagine catching a fish in real life is probably easier than catching a fish in fishing mini games in video games.
I have no idea. I don't know
either, but it seems awfully complicated in all of these games to catch a fish.
Probably. They do seem to show up a lot. Let's see here. So what did you think of the ending? So in my monologue, I mentioned a little bit about how I was like surprised because the game was new that Ganondorf turns into Ganon, because that whole up until that point, I was like, who the hell is Ganondorf?
Same here.
And I was just like, I get it. It's like, okay, they're using that part of the name. He's the bad guy. Okay. But he's a dude, number one.
Yeah, and that was weird too.
I was like, he's just a guy. He's like a wizard or whatever, but he's a dude. He's a Gerudo. Like, that's not what Ganon is. He's not a person from a place. He's a monster.
He's like the only man. He's the only male birthed in a
100 years.
Village. Oh, yeah. Yeah, exactly. He's a 1 in 100 year rare birth child that is male in an otherwise all female city.
Uh-huh.
It's so crazy.
That is really crazy, and also really gross when you think about it.
So I mean, they have to the answer has to be that they aren't getting pregnant by having sex. That has to be the answer. Right?
I don't know that has to be the answer. Where'd you get that from?
That's crazy, right?
Yeah, it is. He's having sex with all of his children.
Exactly. He has to. Yeah, that's crazy. So anyway.
Well, I don't know. Or they just don't bother to have kids until about once in 100 years, because why bother? I mean,
Oh
or
yeah.
unless you just need more population. I don't know I don't think they thought we're probably already thinking this harder than they did.
Than they did.
Yeah, I think it just makes for like a cool lore reason why there aren't any other men to challenge Ganondorf or whatever, or really
Yeah.
they just wanted a giant fucking waifu town. So they're
Yeah.
saying here's a reason.
So that was an interesting thing. You mentioned the word waifu. I'm kind of surprised. I didn't think they would like trying to be sexy with these terrible looking graphics. Like, but you go to
They
those
tried.
freaking right that you go to those freaking
Oh
fairy
yeah.
fountains where they teach you like the sword
All
techniques
like
and
the
stuff.
laughing and moaning.
Yeah, they're laughing and moaning, and the freaking camera's like going all over their
Oh
body and
yeah.
stuff.
Very
And I'm like,
slow
what?
pan upwards.
Yeah, and if this was like made nowadays, this would be pretty hot. But the way it looks with all these, squares and everybody's face looks freaking weird
Her
in this game.
boobs are literal like triangles.
They totally exactly right. Yeah,
To a complete point. Triangles.
so I thought that was pretty funny.
I mean, it's
I didn't
interesting
expect
you bring it
anything.
up because when I played, this shows how long ago this was. When I was playing this game downstairs in my family's like living room area, I was playing it on the TV, and I went to one of those fountains, and the fairy comes bursting out laughing and making all these like sexy noises. My mother's just like, what is this?
Yeah.
And I remember thinking at that moment, I was like, you're right, it does sound a little weird. I was like, it's not as weird as it sounds. And she's like, all right. That was enough to satisfy her. But it was, I then looked at it again. I was like, yeah, this is a little strangely sexy.
Yeah, right. Why are they trying to make these graphics sexy?
Yeah, and they do like we were saying with the women in the Gerudo town. They're all wearing like kind of somewhat sexy clothing, and then there's Ruto. Holy shit!
Yeah, that's right, Ruto. Yeah,
just like totally trying to basically like force herself onto you.
totally. Yeah, you're my husband now.
Yeah, I've decided.
Yeah, so nothing you could do about it, Link.
Yeah, just shit, I became a sage. Well, can't be your wife. Too bad for that, right? Oh well.
So
If
I
only.
actually kind of felt it for a little bit for Zelda as well, but mostly for Saria because I felt
Sure.
like she's the one who loved you the most and wanted to be with you the most. Is what the like right from the beginning of the game, she freaking meets you on that bridge as you're walking out of the village.
Yeah.
She's like, here, I want to give you my one and only ocarina to you.
Right.
Like, whoa. I'm like, whoa. And then freaking, she just keeps standing there while Link runs off. Like, he doesn't really make any gestures or
well,
anything.
he's a kid. He's a little boy, and he's running away because he doesn't know what's going on. He's 7 or whatever years old.
He's 7. Yeah, he's 7. That's right. And Saria gives him that. And then, they pan in on her face to like, it's not particularly expressive, but you can tell she's feeling it for Link.
Yeah. But also, think on this, though. She's one of the Kokiri. She's not as old as she looks. She could be an adult age.
Oh, she's older than she looks, you mean?
Right, that's what I mean. She's not.
Yeah, that's what you mean.
She's not as old as she looks. She's older.
Yeah,
and to me, that scene reads as an adult interacting with a child.
I guess so, huh?
Because she's very, very reserved, and she's not running away or being embarrassed or anything. She's very straightforward, trying to help this kid who came to their town as an orphan, and he's not one of them, and they all know it, and he doesn't quite understand it, and he finds out, and you find out as the player, that he's not one of them, because he's not one of these, like, Neverland friggin' forever a child people. He's a normal person, which in this game is a Hylian, and he ages and grows up.
Yeah.
So, she may have had feelings for him, but also it's like it would have been impossible anyway. She would never have grown up.
That's just more drama to the... Like, this game has a lot of drama,
it is.
in my opinion.
It's strangely dramatic.
Right, no voice acting, and
No.
the scenes were admittedly long enough for me, but compared to newer games, still not that many cut scenes, I would say.
For its
Um,
time, though, kind of a
First
lot.
time it was a lot. First time it
Yeah.
was a lot, right?
I remember
Yeah.
thinking, wow, there's a lot of like exposition. I wouldn't use that word, but I remember especially those scenes where you can't advance the dialogue yourself.
Oh my God.
That I remember
Yes.
particularly being like, whoa, here we go. Tell me about the
So
three
good.
goddesses again.
Yeah, the freaking text progression button, like the mechanic, the way it works, like you can't push the button once to make all the text appear on the screen.
No.
If the text is skippable, it just skips all the text instantly. You
Yeah.
can't just make it appear faster.
Yeah.
It's like then you
And
have to talk to him again and
there's
wait.
that famous um that famous trap with the owl where he defaults
What's
answer to yes, I want to hear what you say again.
Oh, right. I
Did you
know.
fall for that? Because almost every time I play the game, I accidentally hit yes.
I didn't. I always said no.
Oh my gosh. Because you're always buttoning through. I'm like, I don't care, blah, blah. And then it's like, do you want to hear yes? Shit!
It's
And
because the freaking cancel button also works as the
skip.
confirm button in that case. Because the cancel button is the button that lets you skip the text. But
Right.
then when you press cancel, even though it's the cancel button, if you're on the yes, it counts as
It counts
yes?
as a yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
But
why didn't
also,
they
the
just make it
cursor
cancel?
is defaulted to yes.
Yeah, I
Should be
understood what you're saying.
no.
Yeah, put it on no, please.
Ugh.
Put it on no.
Especially for how long he talks, too.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was really impressed though, like how can we continue talking a little bit more about the
Yeah.
atmosphere? Because yeah, like I'm really impressed. I think that's the main reason. The atmosphere and the story are the main reasons that people are so goo goo gaga for this game, because man, they really make a dramatic situation out of the whole kid has to save the world thing.
Sure.
And man, it blows my mind how after he does all that stuff, and I might not have thought of this on my own, but I thought of it because I watched good old Justin Bailey, yo.
Ooh.
He talked about this game way back in the day, and he made such a good point, and then I totally was remembering that, and it was totally affecting me, like making me sad as I was watching the ending. I was like, he's gonna put the sword back and have to be 7 years old again after all that.
Yeah.
Like, what's that gonna do to him? And like Justin and Bailey was saying that the whole point of Majora's Mask is that he has to heal after all that by helping random people with their little problems instead of saving the world. Because all that stuff that he just did, that's some traumatic stuff for a little kid to be doing. And my God, I was getting goosebumps multiple times throughout the game. This thing was so effective, particularly the final battle against Ganon himself, not the Dwarf version.
Yeah.
Ganondorf version was also really well done, I thought. But yeah, like you kill him, you have to escape. You have to do the whole thing over again if you die at the boss, by the way.
Yeah.
Thank God I had save states. I was using an emulator. Because man, that might have driven me crazy. Yeah, you have to escape from I'd escape from the thing twice because
Okay.
I save stated in a bad position, so I had to do that part again. Because man, those two skeleton dudes you fight really mess up the thing.
They're tough. Like those are some of the harder combat encounters because the game actually rarely forces you to really engage with its combat. You're usually given an out. Like, oh, I could swing my sword at this guy and it would be kind of hard to do, or I could stun him with a boomerang. And then just get carte blanche, or I can shoot him with an arrow, or there's something I can do to tip the favor in my balance way in my favor.
My favor,
yeah. And then there's some weakness, but those skeleton guys are straight up just gotta be good.
Hit them with the sword when they drop an opening. And the real problem though, like it's not really a problem, it's just the way it's designed. It's what makes it hard. Is that you have to kill the second one really fast before the first one reanimates.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the problem I was having. So that was pretty crazy. But eventually you get down there and she's like, it's over. We escaped the castle. Thank you so much. And then freaking Ganon comes out. And I'm like, what? That's crazy. And he looks way cooler than Ganondorf.
Yeah.
And his name sounds cooler than
Yeah.
Ganondorf. And the whole sky behind you is kind of dark.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very dark, but it's kind of it's borderlining on pure black. And so you're fighting this guy who you can't really even see that well.
I was just going to say, you can't even see what he looks like most of the time until the very, very end, where it's like, what am I even fighting? It's this giant fucking shadow monster. It's such a cool concept.
Yeah, it was really, well, I don't know that a shadow monster on its own is a cool concept, but I liked the concept that, yeah, he's a physical normal enemy.
Well, yeah, but
they just don't show you.
Exactly, that's what I mean. Like, there's just this there is something there, but the game's just refusing to give you a clear image, even though you're right fucking next to him the whole time.
Yeah, and
I thought that was great.
Yeah, and I love how his whole attack pattern is he walks right up to you and hits you with this giant axe. What's an axe that he had?
He had 2 big swords.
2 swords. Yeah, he hits you with his giant swords, and if you hit them, you just die, or at least I did, because I didn't have any more fairies and I didn't have any hearts.
Oh boy, wow, yeah. He does take a ton of life off, but if you had either the white outline on the hearts or more hearts, you can tank a couple hits.
Yeah, I think I was actually one hit away. I had 2. I could take 1 hit, and then the second hit would.
So what did you do in that fight in particular? Because there are actually a number of ways you can defeat him.
It seemed to me that there were a number of ways to defeat him, and that is why I think that is the best battle in the whole game, and that makes me happy to say, because there are most of the time, the final boss, which should be the greatest battle of all time, is not the best fight in the game, right? But this one, I think it was the best fight of all time, because you don't have to wait forever for them to do something first. I mean, you do have to wait for him to attack first, maybe, if you use the way that I did it. But you can choose when he's going to attack by just walking up into his range and he'll attack you. Whereas there's lots of other guys where you have to wait for them to attack you and then counterattack. Yep. And they just walk around you and not attack you for a long time. It drives me crazy.
Right.
But anyway, I freaking hook shotted his ass to death.
Ooh.
Because so I started off, I started noticing, okay, so some things that I hit him with makes him stop and shrug it off. Uh-huh. And during that time, I could walk around to his other side, to his backside, and I noticed that the horrible Z targeting system will automatically target the part that I need, his tail.
Yeah, uh-huh.
So I was like, okay, cool. So that must be the weak point. And, you talk to Navi, and she's like, I have no idea what the weak point is. But I'm like, okay, I figured it out. Don't worry. So I started using those arrows of light. And I'm like, and that stuns him for a fairly long time.
Yeah.
And then you go around to the backside and hit him. And I'm like, okay, this is going to work. And I guess there's really nothing better I can hit him with than the sword. I wanted to hit him with the jump slash because I learned later that that's like double damage to your regular slashes. But I couldn't do it quick enough. It takes more time. So I just got in there, get a slash, and then get back out.
But you didn't have your sword, right? Because they knock it away.
That's right. At the first part, you don't have it. So I just used the hook shot. That's right.
Oh, so you hit his tail with the hook shot.
Yeah, so I hit him in the face with the hook shot, and I started. He's like shrugs it off for a moment, and so I only get a little bit further to the side of him. Hit him again, get a little bit further side. I have to hook shot him in the head 3 times before I can finally get a hook shot off on the tail.
Interesting.
But yeah, at the beginning, I was totally freaking panicking, trying all kinds of things. It was amazing.
When I played it, when I first did it, I used the hammer on his tail because it has a relatively sword-like timing and swing to it. I don't know how much damage it does, but it was doing some damage. So I would just do that until the phase ended and I got the sword back. But if you get the Big Goron sword, he knocks your Master Sword away. He doesn't knock the Big Goron sword away.
So you still have that one?
Yeah. That's really funny. Because they make a big deal. Like, oh, your sword! I'm like, I got this even more powerful sword here still.
This way better sword. Don't worry about that, man.
I just thought that was
sword
funny.
That doesn't turn me into a kid.
Yeah, the sword that, it's not the sword of legend, but it is stronger. Don't worry.
Yeah. Yeah, so I was blown away by the fact that I could use the hook shot to finish him. Because yeah, eventually I ran out of magic. That was another
Oh, I
problem I
bet.
had.
Yeah.
On the first Ganondorf fight, I had to leave the freaking whole dungeon, go
Nice.
out, get a bunch of magic, and I also got like a couple fairies, and then I bought two. I got one fairy. I had 3 bottles, so I caught one fairy, and I bought 2 magic potions because I don't think you can beat the Ganondorf version of the battle without light.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. I don't hear you. Oh, no. Just a quick little interjection here. We had some technical difficulties. Zoltan, I think we left off with you saying that you didn't have enough magic for the Ganondorf fight. You had to leave the tower and buy some stuff.
Yeah, I had to go all the way back out, and I had to because I tried to fight him the first time using my save states and load states. I can get through this no problem, but then I just didn't have enough light arrows because there's no way. That's right. This is the question I asked you that I couldn't hear your reply on. There's no way to beat him without the light arrows, right?
I want to say that is accurate because you can reflect his attacks back, but they don't stun him enough, like the right
They don't
way.
deal damage, right?
Right. So well, that's not how you actually deal damage to him. I don't know how you did that fight. There might be multiple ways to do the fight. So the
I think I
rhythm,
did the intended way, yo, which would be
which
to
would be what?
reflect his shot back at
Yeah.
him. You have a very limited time to whip out the light bow
Yeah.
and hit him with a light arrow, and
Yeah.
then he'll fall down because he's in the air, right?
Yeah.
Then he'll fall down to the ground and be stunned for a while, and then you have to jump over to his platform
Yeah.
and rage on him with the Master Sword a little bit. That's
Pretty
what I
much. You
did.
can also hook shot to him because apparently you can hook shot to him.
That's cool. That's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, for some reason, a guy I read explained it as like his chainmail something or other. And I was thinking, whatever. Hook shot to
whatever.
Ganondorf. You can
So,
also
yeah.
stun lock him. If you hit him in exactly the right way, he'll never come out of that hit animation. You'll get him in one cycle.
No way. It took me a million cycles.
Yeah.
You can get him in one cycle?
You can get him in one. I've seen speedrunners do it. Yeah.
I hear there's like this crazy glitch where if you do the thing where you're not locked on and you're blocking and you do the sword attack, you'll just do a ha ha ha, and you can attack pretty quickly like that. Just these forward jabs.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is
and
that what they were doing?
I didn't watch a video. I just heard about this from HC Bailey's Let's Play of it. Apparently, that attack does however much damage your previous attack did.
What?
So, yeah. So if you if you get if you do that like double attack hit, I'm sorry, that jump attack which does double damage, you could just do double damage like ha 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 really quickly and really wreck some people apparently. But I never figured out how to really use that well.
So I've watched a couple people play this game. Whenever they come to this fight, these last 2 boss fights, I always see people do things a little different, which is interesting. Which is great because it speaks to how cool the boss fight is. You can hook shot to Ganondorf. A lot of people I've seen don't bother because it's who would think to do that. You can also hook shot to the windows around the edge of the arena to get away, which is even more useful. And you can use a bottle, the swiping bottle animation, to catch something to reflect his projectiles back.
You can do that too, huh?
Why? I don't know, but you can. And the other one that I've actually seen some people not think or like figure it out in the middle of the fight is when he charges up that really big ball of energy above his head. Did you see that attack?
Yeah, I got that. Yeah, he shoots lots of lightning bolts at you with that one.
Do you know what the intended, strategy is for that?
I'd like to think the one I did was the intended strategy, which is I did the circular slice.
Correct.
Okay, and they all went on him.
Yeah, you spin around, you charge up your spin attack, and you spin around, and they all go back on him. I've seen people hit 1 or 2 back and then run away. I've seen people just fucking run away. I was just like, oh, I guess they don't get it. You're supposed to, because you do the back and forth with the single bolt, but maybe you just can't hit him with that attack, whatever. But when you do that fight the right way, like not even like speedrun strategy, just like do all the mechanics, the flow of that fight is so fucking cool to look at. It's
It is,
so
right?
cool. Because
Yeah.
hitting him with the light arrow looks awesome.
Yep.
Reflecting all those things back at once looks fucking awesome. It's
Yeah.
so cool. That whole fight is fucking long. When he does that big like slam on the ground with his fist and like parts of the platforms fall away,
Yeah.
that looks
Yeah.
really cool. His
For
cape
their
starts
first
getting holes in it.
Oh, I didn't notice that. For their first like 3D game and they want to make it cinematic. They did a good job on a lot of parts,
Oh my
right?
god, they did
Yeah.
such a great job with just like the camera work and the way all this other thing, all these things that they would have never done previously, all
Mm.
this like fresh off the like slate stuff that they did to make this game look as long-lastingly iconic as it has.
Yeah.
It just speaks to the talent and at play. Um, so you
Sorry, so let me finish
mentioned,
what I was
go
saying
ahead, go
about
ahead.
Ganon. Yeah, so I was really impressed with him, with Ganondorf as well. And I had to go out. I got a fairy and 2 potions of magic. Came back and I did that fight, and I was really impressed with the whole thing where he has to whip that bolt back at him, and then in a very short window, in my opinion, hit him with a light arrow. Because the first time I wasn't sure that's what I had to do
Hmm.
because the window's really short. You don't have much time
I guess not. You got to have that
to
arrow
aim.
good
You
to
got to
go.
have just really good aim, I mean, right? Yeah, you have to
Sure.
like whip out that bow, aim it pretty quickly at him because I don't know, is it just me? I mean, freaking Matthew Matosa said he also would have it wasn't particularly
Aiming.
easy for him to aim perfectly with things in the game as well. But I wonder if I was at an additional disadvantage because of the controller I was using. It wasn't the actual uh N64 controller. But did you also feel that way? Like, could you just always hit
Prob-
exactly where you want the first time? Or
Probably
you have to...
had a hard time with it. I mean, the N64 controller is pretty bad. So you're at a disadvantage even when you're using the intended controller.
Okay,
The
yeah. So
control
maybe I
stick
wasn't.
on that thing is dog crap.
Mm,
But
yeah.
I don't
The one.
recall having an issue aiming because I think I just knew you hit
How
the
much
thing
to
back
push
and you
it?
just press the C button that the button that the thing is on, just do one motion. It's all that's what's cool about that fight is it's all just like one continuous like boom 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 boom.
Yeah,
There's
you got to
no
do everything
like
all in a
downtime.
row. Yeah, but I kept freaking sending light arrows like right past his hip
That's
bone
funny.
and right past his like head on the side, and it's like, oh my god! And so I ran out of magic the first time. And then even after I got it perfect, I just didn't have enough magic. I needed
Yeah.
to go get
There
those
is a ferry you can
potions.
visit somewhere that extends your magic bar.
I heard about that later. It's like
Yeah.
double magic,
You
right?
get
Yeah.
probably double. I don't recall at any point needing to buy potions, like magic potions, although you could do.
I think in
Yeah.
my case, I had to because I used all the magic even when I
In
hit
the
him
pots
perfectly.
downstairs, because you can go down to the bottom of the arena and there's little pots you can break.
But
That
only 2 of them have
oh,
magic,
do they?
so
I don't think I remember
it
how
is
many.
still possible to get to the point. Yeah, there's like a whole bunch of pots, and they
Yeah.
respawn every time you go back up to see Ganondorf. So I'm like, great, I don't have to worry about running out of magic. But then contents don't respawn; just the
Okay.
pots
Just the
respawn.
pots.
So, and most of them don't have magic. So,
Mm-hmm.
so I
Mm-hmm.
was, so anyway, yeah, that was a really huge deal for me to overcome Ganondorf himself. Dude, I wonder if like I'm having a controller lag issue or if that's how the game was. It didn't normally it felt fine,
Mm.
but do you really have to press the button to attack that lightning bolt with your sword way in advance? Because I kept like
It's
wanting to
hard.
push the button, the sword attack button, right? Like right as the thing was about to hit me, but then I got hit
I
because
think the
just
problem is the game is doing it based on where the actual hitbox for your sword is. So you go to swipe and you do a stationary horizontal swipe, right?
and
There's
that makes it
lag in that. You're bringing your
yeah.
arm out, you bring it across, and if that ball comes at you while your arm is still going across, there's no
Yeah.
hitbox there. So I remember fucking that up a whole bunch too.
Okay. So maybe I wasn't having
But this
controller
is
lag.
this is a
Yeah.
similar fight in premise to the Phantom Ganon fight, right?
Yes, that's
So
right. That
did
was
you
the
have the
first time you
same
did.
issue in that fight?
Yeah, it just seems like I always have to push the attack button
earlier.
way earlier than I want to.
Yeah.
And the thing that was kind of driving me crazy about both fights, it's like, how am I supposed to make that lightning bolt hit him? Because he just keeps reflecting it back at you. And my wife's like, maybe
Just
you
keep
got to
doing it.
slowly move closer and closer.
Oh, whoa.
And so that's what I was doing. And yeah, eventually I was getting him. Is that what it is? Is that the
No.
mechanic?
The mechanic
What's
is
the mechanic?
the mechanic is eventually he fucks up. You do it long enough and he'll fuck it up. But
Eventually.
it can be a while.
It
Like,
can be a while. Like you can reflect
yeah.
that thing 6 times and you
Yeah,
can
something
still
like
hit
that.
it back.
And they get faster.
Yes, they
With
get
the
faster.
Phantom Ganon one in particular, he tends to hover around kind of closer to you, and it can get like kind of nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that whole boss fight definitely a big standout to me.
Yeah.
Again, that the acknowledgement of the name change of like, no, now this is Ganon, the guy you know about.
That was cool.
This is that fucker for real.
Yeah. Dude, do you remember Ganon from? Did you play Zelda 2?
That's where I knew him from initially, because he's on the screen every time you
Game
fucking
over
die.
screen. I know, right? And so I really, because like you died, and he's like, huh, huh, huh,
Yeah,
huh,
that
huh.
actually
Laugh sound
scared me
effect.
as a child. Like, because it's
Yeah.
a big red screen and it's a big creepy laugh, and I was like, oh, what's going on?
And a big pig monster
Yeah,
shadow on it.
Shadowy pig monster, and it's like
Yeah.
World of Ganon or whatever the hell.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh no.
I was really impressed with how they not just Ganon, really the whole game. Like, they made it a really dramatic and effective. The whole kid thing, the whole dealing with scary ass bosses, all of it. Like, just super solid on atmosphere in this game. And even right from the moment I turned it on, and he's like riding Epona, and that kind of also again dramatic.
The intro music. I think we should dip into the music at this point.
Okay.
Because the intro music, since you brought up the title screen in particular, that, like on the harp, where it starts out, the right opening few notes of that are, they're it's because it's so like ingrained in my memory of that time when I first played the game, and the intro cutscene as well when you're on the
horse.
When it's from Navi's perspective, flying around Kokiri Village. That little cutscene is just like, it awakens like an old memory in me every time I see it.
That's the nostalgia yell.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm trying to like drill into here. Is like, where does that end, and where does the real or less nostalgic experience begin?
I'd say the less nostalgic experience starts with that scene, the one where they're flying around, because I don't think that scene is in the end like what is it really? It's not a requirement for the player to see. It doesn't like look particularly cool in my opinion, and I get the feeling the whole point of it is just to show off, is for Nintendo to show off.
It's 3D.
It's 3D, yo.
Yeah.
Right. So, but when I saw that, because it is kind of unique, that little scene
in the game. Yeah.
Right. Not just in this game. I don't know any game that starts with like a first-person view mode of something flying around. I mean, there's some, right?
There's some. Yeah.
I get the feeling that's sort of a unique scene, at least in games, and so I can see why that remains a popular memory for people who are nostalgic for this game.
Yeah.
But the intro, dude, you don't need nostalgia. I mean, the title screen, you don't need nostalgia for that. As soon as first time I ever turned on the game, it's like it says The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. It's got that freaking music going on.
So good.
And he's riding that horse. And just seeing that, I'm like, dude, this is dramatic already. They create the atmosphere perfectly right from the moment you turn on the console. Yeah, that's not nostalgia. That was freaking awesome.
Yeah, that's kind of heartening to hear, because that opening, just the opening couple, I don't know, chord or just a couple of notes, particularly on the harp, though,
Yeah.
really just like my heart like falls out of my chest every time I hear it. It's so powerful, I feel like.
I feel like it
And
is too.
yeah, it's
And it
so
becomes
good.
more powerful after you beat the game and you realize
True.
all the freaking traumatic things that Link has to go through.
It really is a sad game. And they even
It is.
acknowledge it directly where Zelda's like, this was really horrible for you.
Yeah, she says it. Yeah, I'm sorry that this happened to you. Your life
Yeah.
is shit because
Her
of me. I'm
the
sorry.
last like the reward, the big conclusion is you in the sky for some reason with Zelda staring at you like sad.
Yeah, yeah. Like
She's
it's
not
not
like, you
really.
saved me, you saved the world. It's just like, this was horrible.
I know, right? It's like happily ever after for everybody else except you and her. Well, mostly you. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like, damn. So yeah, when H.C. Bailey says Link needed Majora's Mask to heal himself, I totally get where he's coming from with that, because that is some hardcore stuff for a freaking 14-year-old, even, I want to say. But the thing is, he wasn't awake from age 7 to 14. They put him in stasis, right?
Right. So he's
For
essentially
7
a
years.
7-year-old who was
So he's
just thrown into a foreign
a
adult
14-year-old body.
body, right? And
Yeah.
he's now told, like, everyone's around him died. You know, not that he had a
Yeah.
lot of people to begin with, which is also tragic in its own
Yeah.
way.
The
But all
entire
the people,
Hyrule town was
yeah, they're
destroyed.
destroyed. There's a bunch of zombies everywhere. Everything
Yeah.
else is just a worse version of itself in some
Totally.
way or another. Like your town, your hometown that you grew up in as a kid is overrun by monsters.
Yeah.
It's really crazy.
We keep
And
going on about
yeah,
the atmosphere. Sorry. You want to talk about
I
music.
guess you're right. It's hard. I knew I didn't need to come up with very many questions for this. But yeah, the music I wanted to get into because, and this I guess is the first time they do this dynamic in Zelda. They've done it ever since. Is where they do this thing where you've got to play a certain tune to do a certain thing. We talked about it before, but it has the secondary effect of just drilling that shit into your brain. Like
I'm not
you're
following you. What do you mean?
all of
Sorry.
the ocarina tunes, the little music that you have to play on your
Yeah.
ocarina to do stuff in the game.
They
All of
do
that
stuff.
is
Yeah, they do stuff. Yeah.
right. The stuff that you have to do, all of that stuff, the repetition ends up making it so you don't forget the music in this game.
That helps. That definitely does help.
You
Yeah.
know, the
And the
tune
fact
you
that
play
it's
is just a little part of it, but it always concludes. It always plays back the whole thing every time you play something.
yeah, totally. You play the first 6 notes and then it plays the rest as a
Right.
cutscene.
Right.
It also helps that all the songs that that you learn like is the background music of the place that you learn
Right.
it.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I totally got when I finally had to learn the Song of Storms. Da 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 da.
Uh-huh.
When it finally learned it the right way, I was like, that's what I played. Why didn't it work? That was what I played back then. Like I was like, it's either this note or this note. And that's another really awesome thing they did with mechanics. That freaking they could have made it like you push this button combination and such songs come out, but they made it so that these 5 buttons are just the same notes every time. Like that was a really genius thing, I would say.
You can play it like kind of a real,
yeah.
You can play it like a real instrument. If you press up and down on the control stick, you can change, I think, the pitch or something.
It's not just those 5 notes. You can do more.
You can do more. So I don't know on the controller you had, but on the N64 controller, you can press up and down on the control stick when you press on a note button to change the pitch, and like it wavers like a little bit. It's like woo,
oh, that's cool. I didn't know that.
And you can press the Z trigger or the R trigger on the shoulder button to also modify in some way the notes a little bit.
Oh, that's awesome.
I'm sure you could look up on YouTube people playing like legit music in this game.
That sounds pretty cool.
I remember dicking around with it a little bit as a kid and having some fun. But yeah, the constant repetition of all of the little pieces, and when you learn all of the temple songs, they're more than 6 notes, right? They're
Yeah, they
or
are
they're more
8 or
than
something.
they're 8, something like that. So they're a little more complex. They're a little more. You have to actually remember them a little bit. Like they're not just like doo-doo-doo. They're
Yeah,
a
it's
little
not just the
more.
first 3 notes repeated.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a little more of a sequence, and they're also more like less chipper and more dour
Yup.
sounds that are fit with, I guess, the world that they're in.
I would agree that overall the music is like the ocarina songs in particular are very memorable, but there's they kind of changed up. Well, no, maybe it's not different. Maybe it's the same as the 2D Zeldas, but I want to say like all the dungeon musics, all the dungeon themes, don't remember them at all. Like they do not stand out at all. They don't have very strong melodies. Uh, I remember just one of them. I think it was the forest one. I remember not liking it at all. But in like, I remember the fire temple area or the volcano or whatever it was. No, the fire temple. Yeah. Um, the sound of the lava was like about the same volume
True.
as the music. I don't remember what the music was anymore. And so I thought that was an interesting way to go about it. Um, you do spend a long time in some of those temples, so maybe that was the better way to make it not a very, make it more atmospheric and ambient than melodic. Maybe that was the
Yeah.
way to go.
Yeah, it's an interesting because I think a lot of what I think about with this music is the melody, but I'm not really thinking about the location music as so much as I am just the ocarina tunes that you get to
Right?
play here and there,
Yeah, it's really the ocarina tunes that do all the standing out.
pretty much.
Um, and but I really, really hate how it switches to that freaking enemy encounter music when you fight any enemy ever,
Sure,
which I
yeah.
always complain about. But in this case, it's like it's really, really boring too. The song
Hmm.
itself, it's just like, I mean, I suppose it's not really any different from the Wind Waker one, though. To be honest, it's kind of the same. Just like
It's just like generic, like, attention
droning.
grabbing, droning music. It does serve the dual purpose of alerting you that an enemy sees you, because you
It
might not
serves that
always
purpose,
know.
yes.
Yeah,
I That's true. You can get hit off screen easy.
very
Hit
true.
from off screen easily.
You
Like
can,
freaking
yeah.
bats swooping out of nowhere and stuff. Oh man.
Now, in the version that you played, because I think they changed it, or maybe they didn't, you don't have direct control over the camera, right?
Not at all. It
Right.
is a massive, massive problem all the time.
Yeah. You constantly have to recenter the camera behind your behind your
It makes a
character.
cool sound, but
Yeah.
man, like like the sound itself, Evan, I think is dramatic. But that's like what it sounds like. It's like something was scraped across some cement. That's what it sounds like to me.
Yeah.
It's really weird
It is a
that
strange sound.
to me. Yeah, that's the one like that they would even go with that large of a sound in the first place. But yeah, it's such a pain in the ass. I mean, when we get to, you know, gameplay and stuff, I can talk about that. Sorry.
All right. No, that's fine. But as far as music goes, yeah, the ocarina tunes and just, I guess, playing around with the ocarina were some of the standout parts to me. We kind of touched on that, but trying to think if there was anything else on music. Did you have anything else on music that you wanted to get
I
to?
guess not. They don't ever play the original Zelda theme
No,
song in this game, do they?
not for you to play. You could play it, but it doesn't
I
do
mean, it's
anything.
not in the game anywhere,
No.
right?
Mm-mm.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess it's too fun and happy for this game, really.
Guess
Now
so.
that I think
Like
about it, right?
if you were to take it by the gameplay's perspective, the Zelda's Lullaby is the theme of the game. That one
I
gets the
suppose so.
most
Yeah.
play.
Yeah. You use it everywhere.
Music friggin' everywhere. But yeah, I thought it was interesting. I remember reading something about how they were a little conflicted as to whether or not they wanted you to have to play the notes out yourself every time. And then someone made the decision, probably Miyamoto, yeah, let's make them do it every time. I think that's important. And I guess I think that's the right call.
I think so too. I mean, it takes time, and I guess that's a little bit annoying, but I
Right.
can forgive having to go into the menu to equip the ocarina and then stop and play it
Because I think their
for
point
that.
was when you force people to do it that way, and I'm sure this happened with you, you don't play it the right way every time. You're just like mashing the buttons out. It's like, right?
Yep.
So
Yeah.
you're not even really engaging with the system the way that they intend. But you could. And there definitely were instances where I did, on
Yeah.
purpose,
Same here.
play it a little slower the real way because I wanted to. So I guess that was the right call, to force you to have to play it and not just pick it from a menu and then have it play
Yeah.
for you.
In terms of thinking about all the things that are really freaking slow in this game, I think the Ocarina, if you didn't have to play yourself, it would lose a lot of impact, I think. So
I think so. If you
yeah,
only had to play it like once.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
if you just had to like push a button to one, like for example, you could just instead of selecting the ocarina, you selected the song and equipped it to the menu, and then just push the button once. Yeah, I think it's not as cool.
I agree. I'm glad they stuck with that idea, it
Waker
moved
too.
forward. Yeah, it's in Majora's Mask, big time. It's in Wind Waker. It's not so much in
Twilight.
No, it's in Twilight Princess to a more reduced degree, but it's in there. In fact, we
Is it in
play some of the
Skyward
same
Sword?
songs. But I was going to say, it's not really in Skyward Sword, and in Breath of the Wild, it's really not there at all. So they finally eased away from the music as a core thing for whatever reason, but for a good while that was the thing. That was the hot staple of the series, and I wouldn't mind a comeback of some degree of some musical I think that's a pretty cool concept.
Yeah, I like it. So yeah, that's all I have to say about music.
All right. So we were getting into gameplay a little bit. When I first played the game, something that really took me time to grapple with was, especially not only having played 3D games for only a short period of time, because it was new for 3D games were coming into vogue. But this is a strange 3D game by most standards. Subsequent rather, Zelda games would emulate this gameplay heavily, but not very many other games do. So you can't jump. Obviously, that's big thing number one, right?
Yeah,
You're
that's
very
weird,
stuck to the ground.
Yeah.
You automatically jump, which was another thing that threw me for a loop. And then the other thing that did for me was how the A button constantly changes what it does.
Yes, which it's sometimes awesome. I mean, it's not sometimes awesome. It's cool in, I don't even want to say just in theory, because it works a lot of the time in practice, but there's often times that it's not working because you want to hurry up and put away your stick or your sword or whatever, but you have to wait for the put away button to show up.
Yep. It's not quite perfectly done. It's a context sensitive button, which is a thing that tons of games have done ever since. There's always some sort of context sensitive pick this thing up or open this thing button, right? Does a bunch of actions, and you usually don't even need to be told on screen what the button does. Normally, that was when games were new. They felt no one would know what the hell how this works. How would you know if the button constantly changes what it does? You're coming off of a time from where games had attack buttons and jump buttons, and the jump button always jumped, and the attack button always attacked. And maybe you press up occasionally to open a door, but that's it. The directional buttons move, and that's it. So they had to put all of that info on the screen. And one of the strangest choices to this day is that they named the roll button attack.
Yes.
You're not attacking. That doesn't do damage.
Yeah.
You're rolling.
And lots of times when I wanted to attack by using that button, freaking, he didn't have the sword out already.
Right.
Right? Because if you want to do that jump attack, you have to already have the sword out, having used it, slashed with it once, before you can do the jump attack. If you have the bow and then come right out of the bow thinking you're going to have your sword equipped? Nah.
Yeah, nope. Gotta put it away.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
that drives me crazy. And also another time that many times it happened where this one button changing constantly for, depending on the context of the situation was a massive problem for me was what happened? Like I was locked onto something I wanted to hit, but I was within speaking distance of somebody. And
Oh no.
even if you're not facing them, like if you're in the distance, instead of attacking or doing that jump attack, you'll talk to the person instead. So that was driving me crazy.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not the best, but it's probably a lot better than anything else they could have come up with. Because having to force you to manually target things, either by going into first person or somehow positioning your character in a way, probably would have been worse. They would have probably had to change dramatically the kinds of enemies they could throw at you. Like everything would probably have to be on the ground or act a certain way so that you would need some sort of lock-on targeting system.
Yeah.
But for its day, that targeting system was considered really revolutionary. Everyone was like, wow, this is a cool idea. Kind of solves a lot of problems that 3D games have had, which is just like spatial awareness and aiming is a big thing in 3D games. This takes that all away. It just lock on, and then you press the button, and it's, all you gotta worry about is forward and backward now.
Totally.
And that is a really cool concept, and you can lock on, like you were saying, to people who talk, which the game tells you to do, but you never really do. Like
you don't need to
it's
do
not
it
a thing
usually,
you ever
right?
do, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to, but they're like, hey, lock on to me so you can talk to me from like a distance, and it's like you never do that.
Yeah, they just want you to know you can lock on to things.
Yeah,
for combat, really. So
pretty
yeah,
much.
yeah.
I
was
thought
impressed.
it was really cool that the lock-on mechanic, as a lot of games, a lot of new features in games tend to do this, is they make the mechanic part of the game itself. And the lock-on mechanic is supposed to be Navi flying next to a
over to
thing
the
and
enemy.
drawing your attention, say, go shoot this, right? And that's the whole explanation behind how the lock-on mechanic happens, which I think is really cool. It's the same thing in Mario 64, where they're like, well, how is the camera moving? Well, there's Lakitu is behind you with
holding it.
Yeah, they have to give you an explanation for cameras. I love it.
I also think that's a great idea, and they even used it once on like one boss battle where Navi's like, I can't get close to him. I'm sorry. So you can log on to him.
Yeah.
I thought that was cool.
That is a cool thing.
But my God, dude, like when I think about going back and playing this game again and looking for like the Goron sword and getting all the cool arrows and upgrading the magic and stuff, that all sounds really cool because the way it looks pretty fun to kind of conquer this world that traumatized 7-year-old Link did everything he could in his power to somehow get through. If I went back now and like I would totally want to see Link utterly destroy everything with effortless ease with all the power-ups and stuff. And I would use a guide and stuff. The thing that prevents me from ever wanting to play this thing again is like, I don't know what percent, but the majority of the percent is the goddamn targeting because it has so many problems. And I swear, every game that ever comes out, people say this targeting sucks for this reason. Like, there's all these people who hate Dark Souls targeting for whatever reason. But my God, dude, I think this is on a whole nother level because everything sucks with trying to hit guys. Not everything, but like bats, trying to hit bats. The way you have to lock onto one, you kill that bat, It doesn't immediately lock on to the next one.
Nope.
You have to lock onto it yourself. If
Yep.
you lock onto a guy and you want to unlock from him, it's really weird to try to do it. You have to try to walk in the opposite direction of the enemy and push the lock on button and hope that it doesn't just switch to another target.
Yeah, I thought you could press one of the shoulder buttons to cycle through all in-range lock-on targets.
Yeah,
No?
I'm saying, how do you unlock the lock on though? Because every time I push the lock on, the Z button, right? Every time I push the Z button, if I'm like, I found a way where basically if I'm like facing away, if I'm like running away, not facing away because you face it when you lock on, but if I'm like running backwards away from it while locked onto it and then I push it, then maybe it'll unlock. But sometimes it just locks onto the other target instead, and I don't want that.
So the scenario is you have a bunch of enemies in front of you. You just want to break lock on completely?
Yes.
Okay.
How do you do it?
Yeah, I think just backing up. It breaks the lock on after a certain distance, yeah. I don't think there's a way to actually unlock.
Right? And then if you're running away from something so you're running towards the screen, towards you, the player, and the thing is on the screen chasing you, whatever, like those freaking fire bats, for example, and you think, okay, I want to lock onto him and hit him with the hook shot or whatever. You push the lock on button. Instead, what it does is it switches the camera to turn facing Link, which means now the bat is behind you. And you're also, if you do that while running, it like changes your direction and stuff. For some reason, it won't lock on to enemies that you can see on camera unless Link is also facing them too. That is crazy. And if Link is facing an enemy that's off camera, that also you can't lock on. The camera and Link have to already be facing the enemy before you'll lock onto it. Otherwise, it just does the freaking camera swipe.
Yeah,
that was a problem over and over and over again for me.
Cinematic black bars come up on the screen and then nothing happens. Yeah, very true. I don't recall struggling with the lock-on as much, but it might just be because I know I'm familiar with its bullshit and it's just like second nature, like that kind of thing. Where it's like, this has to happen, I know what to do. Like, I'm not even thinking about it. So that's one of those things that I wouldn't like come up with, because in my monologue I mentioned the lock-on targeting as like kind of new and fancy, and everyone liked it, but I didn't really mention that how awkward it is and how like limited compared to like a Demon Souls or Dark Souls lock-on, which is ostensibly the same concept, right? But it works way better.
Exactly. Just they changed some things, and this game needed to change those things too. Yeah. So, usually the thing that gets me coming back to games, and this is why I'm a fan of RPGs above all other genres, is that I want to go back and max out the character.
Right.
Sounds like fun to me, right?
Sure.
And be super buff really early in this part of the game, or maybe go ahead and let myself be weak for this in this part of the game and then get buff later or whatever. Doing all that kind of stuff is the reason that I like to play games, and that's why I love RPGs. And this game, usually action-adventure games, Zelda clones like this, don't make me want to go back and play them again. But overall, the way the game works is really solid, and there's lots of exploration and really impressive puzzles. And, there's the Goron sword out there that I never got. So I think to myself, it'd be awesome to go back and get everything. But then I think, I have to fight guys again, and it's gonna be terrible. Cause like overall, like the movement and stuff of the combat is freaking sweet. Like I remember in the beginning village, what is the name of that first town you're in?
Kokiri Village.
Kokiri, yeah. When you're in Kokiri, freaking the dude's like, dude, lock onto this rock and practice fighting. And I'm like, okay. And I'm like, whoa, you can backflip. Whoa, you can forward jump and slash at the same time. Whoa, you can do all this cool movement, and it's awesome. And if you hold the freaking controller like to the left or the right, Link will freaking slash left and right. And if you hold it up, he'll like slash vertically. And I thought, this is amazing. This combat is going to be the greatest thing of all time. And it could have been if the targeting worked better and the camera worked better.
True. Yeah, it is unfortunately really easy to ignore the nuance of the sword swipes that the game built into it. All
Yeah,
those
eventually.
directional, like you don't need to worry about swiping up. You never have
Well,
to.
there was one time. No, there's one time you have to.
Really.
Shadow Link, yo.
Oh,
If you
let's talk about this. We didn't. I'm surprised we got this far and didn't mention fucking Shadow Link. Tell me how you beat that guy.
I kept trying to slash at him with that just forward vertical slash, and he'd also slash at the same time.
Uh-huh.
So I kept doing that and doing that and doing that and failing. And then I figured out if I just do the horizontal slash, I can hit him. And when you hit him, he flashes a little bit red. So I assumed that he took damage. And then right after you hit him, just one time, you can't combo him. Just one time, he falls through the floor, which
Yeah.
looks like you're standing on a puddle of water, a giant pool of water. He falls through the floor and then just reappears. And I'm like, is that what I'm supposed to do? And all I did was constantly horizontal slash him to death. That's all I had to do. That didn't seem like the correct way to me.
There
Because
is.
it was weird. You can't combo him, I guess. Then
Yeah. He is a. I feel like they didn't finish designing that fight. The idea is he's supposed to mirror all of your attacks, which he mostly does do. So you
yeah,
end up like clinking your sword against the exact same move that he does.
yeah, I
But
got that.
he
Yeah,
also has some like clever bullshit up his sleeve. If you try to do a spin attack, he'll
yeah.
like jump out of the way of it. And if you try to forget what move it is exactly. If
If you do like
you
a forward, like if you don't both slash each other at the same time, but you
yeah.
somehow manage to get a slash coming at him, but it's the vertical one that he usually does block, he'll like jump into the air to avoid it and then land on top of your
On your
sword.
sword, yeah.
What? I was like,
That's
what?
such a
Which is kind of cool,
cool
but
thing. I was like,
yeah.
that's cool. Okay, you kicked my that's cool. But the actual way to get through that fight, I don't know what the intended way to get through it is. Because every way that I've ever done and seen seems like some sort of an exploit. Like I hit him a bunch, we clanked swords, and then he stopped. He like fucked up. And then I
Until you
got
finally
him
got him.
you got him into like this loop where he is no longer clanking swords for some reason.
Oh,
And the way that you can repeat that most easily is if you take out the hammer. He doesn't have a hammer. So you hit the
okay.
ground in front of him. He takes damage from the shockwave slightly away from the hammer, and then the same you just repeat over and over. Like he falls through the ground, he shows up somewhere else, you do it again. That's it. The whole
Hmm.
fight is so cool. In fact, the whole damn sequence is so cool. I feel like the exact reason why they didn't just scrap that fight is because everything around it, including the
Is
design
so
of
cool.
Shadow Dark Link or whatever, is so damn cool.
Yeah. It's like it's the coolest thing ever, but the fight sucks. What do we do, Shigeru Miyamoto?
Oh man. You
This
just
fight
walk
sucks,
through
you say?
this foggy lake with a dead tree in the middle, and you walk past the tree, and you get to the door, and you're like, well, the door's locked. I guess I should go back the other way. Oh shit! And then there's a
Da-da-da!
guy who was there the whole time under the tree. Holy shit! And then
Yeah.
you kill him, and the whole illusion fades.
Yeah.
That's also really cool.
Yeah.
I would like fight for that to not get cut too, if that's what happened. I can
Yeah.
totally understand.
Yeah. Matthew Matosis believed that the intended way was to use freaking Din's fire, and
Oh,
he
maybe.
he shows himself doing it, but it's like the same thing. He uses that long ass fire animation, and then he gets hit once by it and falls through the floor again, and then reappears.
Right.
Like,
He
is
always
there any way
does.
to hit?
Not
Yeah, there's
multiple
no way to hit
times,
him to make
no.
him not fall through.
I think that's part of the intention, but how it is that you're supposed to land that hit, I guess Din's fire is it? That also feels like an exploit. Maybe they're all just supposed to be like, figure out, do whatever. Blah, blah, blah. Like, I don't know. I feel like they just didn't, it wasn't finished. I don't think they finished designing that fight, but it was so damn cool. And why it's in the water temple, other than water reflects images, I don't know.
Yeah, that's cool. I guess
why
that's
is that?
the only reason.
But there's no other reason. It's not like he's like a shadow of you, so why is he not in the shadow temple?
Yeah. There's a Shadow Link in Zelda 2, which is way harder.
He's the final boss.
Oh, he was the final boss, wasn't he?
Yeah, he's the actual final boss. Is yourself.
That's right. Yeah, it's yourself. Yeah, that's right. I forgot that was the final one.
Yeah, that's where they took the idea from. And they even, you'll notice when you hit him, he does that like damage pose that you do in Zelda 2.
Which one does?
When you hit this Shadow Link or Dark Link or whatever they call it in Ocarina of Time, and he falls through the ground, he does that.
It does look kind of like that.
That like move, like posture that you take in Zelda 2.
Zelda 2 Link does.
So it's a direct callback to that. You do also your actual character does also do that animation when you get hit by certain moves, but not many.
He does it every time.
Not all the time. Yeah. This guy does it. I think it's a deliberate callback in that way, but they didn't finish it, unfortunately. The rest of the boss fights and like major encounters in this game are all pretty good, I think.
I think they're all pretty good as well.
Maybe some are either too easy or annoying, like not really hard or boring, but like the water temple boss is kind of annoying because he's hard to get. He's not hard though, like to beat. He's just annoying to like nail down.
Yeah, I remember having huge freaking lock-on distance problems again.
Yeah,
you can't just lock on and then go as far as you want.
Nope. And some of the other bosses, I think Bongo is a really cool concept as like a fight where you have to put the lens of truth on. You're on that big bongo and you know, shoot his hands in his eye. It's a really cool encounter, and it's really kind of creepy and scary in a big weird way.
Yeah, this would be a cool game to remake.
Yeah, I mean, they did do the remaster on 3DS. I never played through all of it. I have it emulated on my PC. I should play through all of it, but I was deliberately, holding off once we chose to do this for the episode. So I may circle back and do again. But that's as close as they've done to a remake outside of Twilight Princess, which does a lot of direct callbacks to this game in particular, which I think doesn't really do it justice. Like that game, Twilight Princess, kind of doesn't stand on its own, and the callbacks are all a little weak, in my opinion.
Okay.
But let's see. I think we may have covered all of the topics I had in mind. Was there anything else that stood out that you wanted to cover?
I think the last thing that I want to mention, I think there's just one thing that's missing, and that is how good were the puzzles? So like how do you figuring out how to get through the dungeon and stuff? Because I had a really nice mind blow right in the first dungeon when I'm in the room. I've been everywhere that is on the map that I can go, and there's like that. This is the Deku Tree dungeon, right? And across the way is like another way that I could go, but I can't reach it because there's a big gap between me and over there, and there's water rushing by it. And there's a spider web covering the door, but I couldn't really notice that was a door at first, but I noticed there was a spider web, and I think I might have also noticed on my map. And I don't think there was ever a clue. Like, this might have been the clue, the time for Navi to tell you, by the way, fire can burn spider webs. Like, that might have been a time that she would have been useful, because I'm sitting there thinking, the hell do I do? And I'm like, right? Like, I don't even know if did they ever tell you can light sticks on fire? Did they even tell you can light the stick on fire? I don't know if they did, yo. Right? But I'm in there and I'm like, can I light the stick on fire? And I put the stick and I walk over like, holy crap, I just light the stick on fire. Can I light the spider web on fire, and I try to go over there, but you have to go through a little water part as well.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, damn, this fire went out. Okay, I got to make sure I stay in the shallow part this time. Went, tried it again. It burned the web. I thought that was the greatest puzzle ever. Just like, because they didn't give you like really any hints about it.
Right.
And I guess that's why it was awesome. You actually had to use real life kind of logic to beat it. If they didn't ever give you any hints, which I don't think they did. I don't even think they told you can light sticks on fire. If they just had told you that much, I think that would have been enough of a hint. I don't think they need to say you can burn webs too, but I did. After that was over, I was like, well, that was amazing. But they should have told me I could light the sticks on fire.
It's been so long since I've read any of like when you pick up a Deku stick for the first time, like I don't know what that menu says anymore. It's been years and years since I read that text. So I'm not sure. Maybe they don't.
Yeah, another really sweet standout puzzle for me was when you're in, I think it's the Goron dungeon. And I don't remember. There's like a gigantic Goron like fossil or skull in the wall or whatever, and the path is actually in his mouth, but you can't see that. And then eventually you'll get to the point where there's a plaque that says, "When the giant Goron sees red, the path will open." I'm like,
what does that mean?
and I'm like, what the hell does that mean? And like from that and the other hint that you have is the fact that there's this one bridge that goes over it that has two
gaps,
missing planks in it, holes in it. And so basically just from those two hints, you got to be like, I got to throw a bomb into his eyeball. And I threw it in there and it freaking worked. And I thought that was the greatest puzzle again. Just that was so good.
Yeah, they do a lot of these are the things that I couldn't remember. Like, how did I figure this out? Did I use a guide? Did I figure it out? It's been what, 20 years?
Oh man. Yeah. So those were the puzzles that I thought were freaking great. And usually once you're in the temple, basically all not enough hints or whatever, all that kind of goes out the window. Basically my viewpoint was that once I'm in the temple, I should have everything I have to beat it. And I think I did, except for maybe the Shadow Temple, which you can go into, and then they tell you need the Lens of Truth. Although it turns out it is actually possible to beat it if you know where everything is.
Yeah, true. I don't think I've ever done that, but I'm sure plenty of people have, because some things are moving and you would have to get lucky to know where to see where they're moving.
Yeah. Right. But so all that I forgive. The ones that I don't want to forgive, I want to say they're flaws. I don't know if they really count as flaws objectively. Are just all those things where you have access to all these different areas right at the beginning of the game, and you can't go to any of them until way later when you have all these different tools. And I know, open world games and world maps and things like that expect you to come back later to get things you couldn't get before. But I don't know. It just, there were multiple times where it was like, can I beat this? And then I look it up and like, oh no, I have to get the freaking fire arrows. But somehow I actually made it the whole game without the fire arrows.
Oh, wow. Yeah. There are ice arrows too. I don't know if you know.
Yeah, I think I mentioned it, but I didn't find them ever. And then I remember I felt really stupid. I know it was my own fault, but I didn't like it anyway. Was that you get the golden gauntlets from a chest in
Ganondorf's tower.
Yeah, in the freaking final dungeon. And the final dungeon, by the way, is my favorite one too. So like, good job on making the final dungeon and the final boss the best dungeon and the best boss.
Agreed.
That's great, right? It wasn't as complicated as all the other ones. It was just one big room with a bunch of other doors, but every door just led to a dead end with a switch you had to hit, and you quickly could realize that. So it worked out. It was pretty easy to make sense of it all really quickly.
Yeah.
Unlike the freaking water and fire temples, where it's like, now where do I go? There's a million places I could go.
I like the fire temple for some reason. I don't Now thinking on it now, I'm not sure why I did. It's not
I think it's
the
because
best.
they didn't really lead you on to I don't
Kind
know.
of.
They did a lot of really impressive stuff, like making you drop that gigantic block all the way down to the bottom and stuff.
Yeah, and the
That was
boss
really
fight
impressive.
there was really fun. I remember having a lot of fun with that boss fight, with the
Mhm.
Volvagia boss fight. The Water Temple, of course, obnoxious because you have to take the boots on and off 1,000 times.
Oh my God,
I
yes.
mean,
That was
even if that weren't the case, all of the backtracking and like to go back to this room, play this song again
yeah.
over and over and over. Like you can get yourself like and I looked it up in preparation for this because I thought this happened to me. I thought I soft locked myself in that dungeon once because
I thought so too at first.
yeah, because I was like, there's a key I know where to get, but I can't get to it. And there was like some door that was locked. I was like, I know where I gotta go, but there's a key somewhere behind a locked door. And I'm out of keys. So I remember being in that situation years and years ago. So I looked it up and I was like, is this true? Is this like a thing? And then there's a whole Reddit thread about, no, this is a myth, but
I
there are
found that one.
really good reasons why. Right. So we read the same one. And
Yeah.
they talk about what likely happened is probably true. People save and quit after they fight the Dark Link fight.
Yeah, and they
Um,
don't notice the freaking tile on the
the
floor where you're supposed to play the
right.
time song.
So that may have been what happened to me, or I may have just not been thinking hard enough about a certain backtrack to a certain room or something somewhere. But it is not possible. Like they didn't do that bad a job
The
of designing that temple.
I saw a video recently, maybe it was Game Maker's Toolkit, and they talked about how when they made freaking Ocarina of Time, they hired a guy. I already forgot what the name of the thing he makes, but they hired a guy who makes these box puzzles. And like I
Okay.
don't know how to. I already forgot what the name of the kind of puzzle box puzzle is, but it's like this thing with a bunch of moving parts.
Hmm.
And the whole idea is that Link is inside one of these gigantic box puzzles, and every time you move a piece, somewhere else in the dungeon has been affected by it. You've gained access to it or whatever.
Uh
And
huh.
when I watched that video, I was really impressed that they hired this toy maker dude
Huh.
to help design these dungeons. And
Huh.
I was impressed that this is that they made these huge interconnecting complicated things. Uh, and I respect that, but like it drove me crazy when I freaking read that most players when they get stuck in the water temple, it's because they didn't notice that when the first time you raise the water, inside of that center pillar, that
And go down.
when that freaking block floats up, there was a path underneath that block that you had to go to.
Right.
Damn it! And I went back there. I found the key I needed.
Yeah, that's an easy one to miss. Yeah, even it's strange because even with a guide, it's a little awkward because it's hard to describe in text like where to go. You can get turned around a little bit too easily. Every hallway
Yeah.
looks the same.
Yep.
Uh, but yeah. Oh, and one other thing. Did you notice in the forest temple that center elevator is sort of a callback to Zelda 2?
Oh, I didn't think it was,
It's a
but
little bit, yeah. I think it's
uh,
another deliberate nod. There's a couple of them in this game that are direct callbacks to Zelda 2 because I guess they saw this as much of a transformation and like a experimentation with the formula as Zelda 2 was. That's a theory.
I
I don't
see.
know if that's actually what that was about, but to
When
me
I was
that
in
does.
when I was in that forest temple, man, there's some parts where you like circle around up to some like outside ledges
Yeah.
of the temple, and I was getting hardcore eco freaking
Oh
vibes
yeah,
from
there
it.
is a
It's
little
like,
eco vibes going on in there, huh?
yeah, I feel like I'm in that castle in eco doing this. I really liked it.
True. And the
Um,
music there is a little eco-ish.
I
Right.
suppose so. That was the one
Ambient.
song that actively stood out to me as one I didn't like.
Yeah, I don't like it either. It's kind of annoying, but it
Yeah,
feels like it would fit in eco for some reason.
yeah.
All right.
So anyway, what I was getting with all these puzzles though is
Yeah.
that they are really impressive, and overall, I think they mostly work. I mean, I can't. I could let my gamer pride get in the way and say that I freaking hate the water temple, but actually, now that it's all over, that's actually really impressively made. And overall, I like it. Besides the whole repetitive backtracking and repetition of taking off the boots and all
The
that.
boots. Oof.
Yeah, and all of the temples and how complex they are, really cool. I just wish they could have found a way to make it so that you can't access all these areas before you have the tool you need to do it. Because it happened over and over again. I'm sorry. I kept thinking to myself over and over again, Alundra doesn't do this. Alundra doesn't do this either. Like every time, because Alundra, the whole point of it is it's supposed to be really freaking hard Zelda. And in the end, I kind of feel like the puzzles in Alundra are only about as hard as this game's puzzles because of just how huge and complex all of these dungeon layouts are. So, that's the thing that's a really interesting comparison to make with Alundra is that it has some pretty big dungeons too, but they really, really lead you through them. It's more like, I guess I could say it's more like Wind Waker, where it's less open and it's more like, okay, I've gone here and here. Only place to go is here. And you go in there and you solve the puzzle, and you usually hit the dead ends fairly quickly. There are only some dungeons that have multiple looping paths. For the most part, Alundra is a very linear affair, but you're just trapped in these rooms trying to figure out how to get to the next one. But you don't ever have the feeling that like you're missing an item, because you can usually see the whole room in one or two screens. And yeah, that was the main difference between me enjoying Alundra puzzles and me trying to enjoy these Zelda puzzles, was that freaking anxiety.
Got it. Yeah, that's one of those things that I have no perspective on anymore, is what is it like to not know the layout of these temples and these dungeons that I know like the back of my damn hand.
Yeah.
These puzzles they're not puzzles, they're just like tasks. Like, oh, go here, do this. I'm not even thinking about it. It's funny. I played through this game, I don't even know how many times, at least partially to completion a few times as well, but certainly I've started it a bunch. So it's interesting to see how much of this game is actually kind of hard, and it did not strike me at all how little hand holding it does, because like you were saying, it's kind of ragged on for holding her hand too much, with Navi bugging you, telling you what to do. But in truth, that's not quite what happens.
Yeah, not really. She just tells you the stuff you don't need to know, but all the stuff you do kind of wish you had hints for, it's up to you.
Yeah, you gotta know where to. I mean, she does suggest where to go, but you gotta know what to do when you get there. You gotta figure out, and all the optional stuff is totally off the table. She's not gonna tell you where to put a bomb to get into a secret grotto, and she's not gonna tell you how to get extra heart pieces or anything like that. So
And
that's
she doesn't tell you. She doesn't tell you. You don't need to be here in Gerudo Valley yet. Like that's what I wanted her to say. I seriously went to Gerudo Valley like 5 times before it was time to go there, thinking, now do I go to Gerudo Valley? Like, now can I go there? I got the hook shot. Can I go there now?
But she didn't suggest places to go. Like, hey, we should just go to the forest yet. Like, she doesn't say stuff like that to you.
Eventually, she would, right?
Right. I think that's their way of saying where to go.
It is, right? But once you get out of the temple, she doesn't immediately say,
"Oh, no.
Okay, now let's do this." So I'm standing around like, now where do I gotta go?
Good point.
Okay, I'll go see if I could go into Gerudo Valley or Lake Hylia. Nope, can't go into any of those. And then while I'm doing that, she'd be like, "Hey, you're supposed to go to Death Mountain." Oh, thanks for telling me now.
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't think about that, because the problem with Navi is she doesn't talk to you enough.
That's it. She needed to talk more.
She's gotta talk more. Come on, make her a whole character. Oops, that's what they did in Skyward Sword.
Oh man, did
That
they?
is literally what they did. All right, let's see here. I think I touched on everything on my list, and I think there may have been one other thing that I was gonna bring up at the end, but I think we did end up circling back around to it with that last bit. Um,
We've gone on a million tangents
we've gone
already.
on a million tangents, and we did have gone on almost a million hours. So I do think we
Yeah.
should wrap it up here. Would you recommend this game for someone who hasn't played it for the first time today, as a general recommendation?
Um, I would if they already like
Is
video
it
games
sure?
and they kind of gotta like have to like puzzles as well, I would say.
Yeah, I guess
Uh,
if they're planning to go into it fully blind, which I guess most people do these days. Most people don't assume not to use a guide. Like most games don't hold your hand enough where it's the
yeah.
expectation now, where a guide is like, well, if you want to go nuts about it and get everything, but you might need a
I
guide
mean,
just to beat this game.
right? I mean, I was stuck forever trying to figure out that you need to play Zelda's Lullaby
Yeah,
outside of that Goron dude's room.
right.
Like it took me, I never figured it out on my own. So
Mm,
I looked at a guide for that part. There were like 4 or 5 different parts where I just like, now what do I do? And I looked it up. Twice we're in the water temple, I believe.
right.
But yeah. But so I've come to not want to play the game ever again. But overall, I think the game is a good game. Uh, a very good game thanks to just the basic systems basically work. The
Sure.
gameplay. I mean, the gameplay design of overcoming the combat challenges and overcoming the complicated dungeons, that works just in general, right? So it just matters. It just depends on how much can you withstand all the little problems regarding like the lock-on system, for example. That's
Hmm.
basically my main problem, is just the camera and the lock-on drive me insane over and over again. So that now I don't feel like I want to go back and get everything in the game. But for a first time player, oh man, don't you want to see like Zelda Link's most dramatic adventure? Like I heard that the marketing for this game was that it's like Zelda the movie, and I kind of feel like they delivered on that.
Yeah, I agree. I'm now very curious to see how when your eventual playthrough of Majora's Mask will go,
Mm.
because I feel like certain dials on the meter, so to speak, are cranked way up in certain regards and way down in others,
Oh,
and
I
because
wonder.
they focus way in on certain aspects of Ocarina of Time to the
For
ignorance
Majora.
of some other things in Majora's Mask. So whenever we end up rolling around to that episode, it'll be interesting to sort of reflect on how
Oh
this one
yeah.
went.
And I'm
Um,
dying to find out what you're gonna think of Alundra when
I
you finally
know
play.
we have a different game planned, which I guess we should start getting to by way of wrapping things up here.
Mm,
So let's start first by talking about what the next game planned is. It's a game that you played
yep.
that I have not, and is a little increasingly surprising. I did actually attempt it once and then didn't get very far. I'm talking half an hour max.
Okay.
And this game would be Xenogears
Oh
for the
yeah.
PlayStation 1. Um,
That was the first game for me. That was the first game that I went out to my that I said to myself, "This is my favorite game." That was the first one to get the honor.
interesting. Okay. I know it is tangentially related to the Xenosaga series, which we have both played and know a lot about.
Yep.
Check the channel emblem, avatar, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And the other Xeno games in general, they're all loosely connected, but that's about as much as I know. I know there are mechs. I know the main character's named Jin.
No. In Xenosaga, you have a character named Jin, and
But in
that
Xenogears, what's that guy's name?
his name is Satan.
Satan. Okay, then forget it. I thought for some reason it was Jin. I know there's a Jin in Xenosaga,
Yeah,
but
it's that guy. It's him. It's him.
it is him.
It
Like
is
it's
him. It's
basically
the
him.
same character design and everything. You'll be blown. Your mind will be blown, dude.
I'm prepared to be blown.
Yeah,
So
you're prepared to be blown.
I'm assuming the position.
To be blown.
I'm assuming the to be blown position. So that is the game that I will be playing through. Look forward to that. We will be doing the same episode, but the shoe will be on the other foot, and Zoltan will be conducting the whole shebang.
Oh, yeah.
But we do have one other piece of news here, actually. Zoltan, if you would like to do the honors.
Okay. Yeah. I think I got it. This podcast should now be officially on Spotify, or at least just the very first episode of it. Should be on Spotify now. I believe it will be coming. I believe it will be coming to Google Play Store and what's the other one? Apple Store as well later.
The Google Podcast app. It should show up there. Right now, it's on Spotify. The profile is there, and we have, like you were saying, episode 1. If you type turn-based memories into Spotify, you'll find it. And then eventually, we'll let you know. It should show up on the Google Podcast app, which is the one that I use. And it should show up on the Apple Store, Apple Podcasts. Presumably, once you just type in turn-based memories.
Yeah, hopefully that'll happen soon.
Yeah.
So, yeah, working on that. I'll get them all up once I know that this first episode works on everything.
Right.
Then I'll go ahead and upload all the other ones, including this one.
Yeah, so now if you are just in it for the audio, which, understandable, I mean, it's primarily an audio presentation.
Yeah, I'll put up some footage for this episode. Don't worry.
Okay, yeah. So normally we don't usually have like either you put like what generally like a static image or
a static image. Yeah,
still image. We borrowed some gameplay from other people as well in the past, or trailer footage. But yeah, we recognize this is generally a audio show. So, and we had requests in the comments like, "Hey, you guys gonna just throw this up on a podcast?" And so we know some people would like to do that. So if you would like to just have this on your phone as a podcast, I totally agree. That would be great. Go ahead and do that, and we'll let you know when it's on more than just Spotify. But if you have Spotify, and you want to listen to our first episode, you can do that now.
Yeah.
All right. I think that will finally do it. Thank you so much, Zoltan.
Thank you, man. It was fun.
All right. And everyone out there, have a nice day subscribing and commenting on our channel, and have a good night.
Good night.